break a wolf's neck or something cool. And if we're talking cheesy action, fist fighting in a wolf's den with a bunch of wolves and walking out alive would have actually sealed the deal. Welcome to the Iron Road podcast. My name is Ian. I'm here with my man Eric. As always, he's looking in samurai form today. He seems fired up. We have a very special episode today. Today, we officially launch our Action Hero tournament. All right, we have a great matchup for the opening lined up. We're both prepared. But before we cover that, I want to get to a couple of very relevant current events of topics that we normally cover. So I want to start us off with Colton Engelbrecht. I should probably learn how to say his name because
I believe it's Engelbrecht. I believe it's Engelbrecht. Yeah.
Brocht. Okay. Colton Engelbrecht is a power lifter. He just totaled 2,700 pounds in sleeves. I believe it's in sleeves. So Eric, can I say one thing before I let you have the floor here?
Go right ahead, man.
If Colton totals 3,000 in sleeves, can we just abolish geared lifting? Can we just get rid of it? Wipe it off the face of the earth? Like, if a man can total 3,000, which Donnie Thompson set that record in gear years ago, not to take anything away from Donnie, very strong, great guy. But can we just, the jig is up. Can we stop this with the geared lifting and just say it's fake? Like,
Yes
for example, if I bench 500 pounds with heavy reverse bands, are you going to say I bench 500 pounds?
So a couple things. First of all, anyone watching the show should have realized I was doing the Ronnie James Dio from the Holy Diver music video, where they just it's like
sword.
Jump on the tiger. And he's like this 4'10" man.
I like the South Park episode.
Who's been balding somehow his whole life, but still had hair the whole time. Like he held on to whatever he had left. Holy Diver, of course, one of the all-time great songs and absurd music videos. All right, the only thing that we could say about geared lifting in this context is we should then just say, hey, if you've totaled these crazy numbers raw, then let's see what you can do in gear. Just take it to the next level.
But it's years of learning curve in gear. It's not just like you can just slap it on and do it.
But I'll tell you what. I'll tell you this. If you want to talk, if you were saying, hey, I wanted to abolish geared lifting, right? What better way would there be? Because the years of learning curve, you and I don't necessarily know that from insane amounts of experience.
Okay.
What happens if Colton puts gear on and totals 3,500? Okay, like his first meet. Then I think we could safely say, time to go. This doesn't work anymore. I mean, I remember when I was in high school reading Elite FTS. And following powerlifting, WPO, Chuck Vogelpool, Andy Bolton, Donnie Thompson, and all those guys. Donnie was the only one of those guys that I remembered that did a raw meet back when nobody was doing raw, and I think he totaled in the mid twos ish with just a belt. So Donnie, he would have been a great lifter no matter what path he decided to go down.
Built for it.
But yeah, there was a period of time when 2,700 equipped. I mean, to this day, 2,700 equipped is still considered a great total. So it's just absurd. It's just the real question is how much of an outlier is Colton?
He's one of the biggest outliers in history.
The answer has to be extreme outlier. Sure. But I don't know. It's really impressive. The question is just like, also, how much more does he have left in him?
A lot.
Like just because someone is young doesn't mean that's necessarily the case, though. Like these weights that he's handling, he does like linear progression type training in the gym, which is obviously very effective, but it does mean that he's handling 1,000+ pounds a lot. And so the risk for injury is extremely high. I will say he does not get psyched up, at least outwardly, before his lift. So he seems to be very much in control, managing nervous system fatigue. I've seen a lot of great athletes who were young when everybody was like, sky's the limit. And then actually they peaked when they were 27, So theoretically, he should have a lot left in the tank. I hope he has a lot left in the tank, but you never know, man. Your body can only take so much. And also, like, I put myself in his position. there's got to be a point where you are so much better than everyone else that it gets boring. You know, like
yeah,
you've seen it
maybe.
with other athletes in the past, like
Maybe.
famously, like Michael Jordan. He developed a strategy of making up reasons to hate his opposition. Like he would go to a town and get a newspaper and try to find a single story, a line in a story that doubted him, because he had lost motivation. It was like
Wow.
he was the best. It was no longer just, oh, I'm going to go prove I'm the best, because at that point everyone knew he was the best, and so he had to take it to like the next level. Or like famously that professional bowler Pete Weber, the guy that
Yeah.
always bowled with the glasses
Who do you
on.
think you are? I am.
Yeah, that's
that
it.
Guy?
Yeah. That's the best. Well, if you ever
Best
watch
line in history.
that whole thing, I don't know if it's that event or something else. He is yelling at a fan, but supposedly,
Kid, I think.
supposedly he made it up. Like maybe he saw a kid snicker or something, and then he just immediately decided, like, that's my motivating factor. I'm gonna invent a back and forth between this person over here, and everybody was like looking at each other, like, what's going on? Like, who's Pete yelling at? And he's just rolling strikes with the fucking sunglasses on. Like, he's just, oh my God.
To create a fake rivalry with a child in the audience, like that's on another level.
Yeah, exactly.
Of villainy and
dude,
being a heel.
That might be what Colton needs to stay motivated. I mean, what else? Who else is there to chase? Is he going to chase Thor, the deadlift record? Yeah, I guess. Right.
Yes,
I mean,
that's in the dude. But then after he totaled 3,000, he just went and, like, I think got close to or almost smashed a record for the strict curl. Like, he's just a freakazoid.
Yeah.
His leverages are built for powerlifting. He's absolutely. If you could build someone in a lab for powerlifting, it's Colton. He's just got everything going for him. He doesn't psych up. His technique is flawless. It's so good. And even on his last attempts, his heaviest attempts, he never grinds. Even on his contest lifts, I haven't seen him miss a lift in. I haven't watched all of his career, but I haven't seen him miss a lift in a long time. And I have not seen him grind a lift or lose position. And that's when injuries happen. Granted, like you said, when you're handling anything north of 600 pounds on any lift, squat, bench, or deadlift,
every day.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder. I do wonder what his training looks like and what his recovery is like. He is 25, so most strength athletes, especially in the strongman community, peak at 35. So if he has even 5 more years of this trajectory, he's going to hit 3,000. He smashed the all-time world record by 158 pounds. That's not like edging it out, not like 1 kilogram. Like, I just want to cross the finish line. 158 pounds onto the world record, the previous world record total, is astonishing. It defies logic and the laws of physics, because nobody should be able to lift that much raw, and it's just so clean, so impressive. I can't wait to see what he has in store, quite honestly.
When he does miss on a squat, generally it's just he gets red lighted for depth. And when he misses on a deadlift, he just drops it because he's trying to pick up like 1,100 pounds, right?
Yeah.
So it's not
grips,
like, which you have to at that point. You have to at that point. I think that's the right move.
But then, dude, your thumbs must be fucking. I mean, they must be so conditioned. Hook gripping is painful. Hook gripping for most people who just see him do double overhand. I was reading some of the comments. Some people are like, oh, he's got to go over under grip. I'm like, well,
you're so retarded.
You just don't know any better.
You're so retarded.
Yeah, the hook is how, like, Olympic lifters use the hook grip so they can double overhand grip tremendous amounts of weight and rip it violently. The hook grip is essentially like wearing straps. If you get it right, you can really lock into any weight and not let it go. So, I think he's really dialed in. He doesn't use the Dan Green style of ultra wide, like where he's maximizing his leverage for like a short stroke. He's pretty narrow. I think he can, if he crossed over to conventional, maybe he loses 100 pounds on his deadlift. He's still at like 980, like, or 950. Like, I don't think he would lose that much from going from sumo to conventional. But right now, there's no need. So
yeah, again, that's the sport, right? I mean, you don't have to run 120 meters in the 100-yard dash.
Yeah.
Right. You cross the finish line and that's it. You don't have to run more than 100 yards to get a touchdown in the NFL. Yep. If you want to keep running, great, be my guest, but you're not going to get those extra points.
Like Forrest Gump.
I was just going to say, he must be the stupidest son of a bitch alive, but he sure is fast. I mean, he's incredible. He's obviously built for the sport.
Yes.
I just look at it and I say to myself, I just hope he doesn't get hurt. Because
Likewise.
that's something that could absolutely end his career real quick. And again, you never know, man. When something comes so easy to somebody and it's just nonstop winning, 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 who knows how an injury will affect him? Maybe it'll have it'll have an effect on him, obviously. But I mean, maybe he'll be like right back on the horse, or maybe it's like, wow, I just have to take 6 months, get a surgery. There's no one even close to me. What's the next thing? Who
Sure.
knows?
That's fair. That's
Like,
fair.
it, I am excited about what he has done. I am cautiously excited about what he will do, just because I've been let down so many times by guys in the past, athletes, lifters, or whatever, that it's like, you never know. But no one it's crazy to say this. This is a really bizarre sentence to say about an athlete, because usually only one of these two things is true. Not a single person alive has been able to accomplish what he's done. In a sense, he's the most accomplished lifter ever in terms of strength, while simultaneously still having the most untapped potential.
Yes.
That is
That's
an
scary.
impossibility. That is like, Michael Jordan has won 6 NBA championships. He's 6 for 6, has never lost in the NBA finals, and we're saying, you know what, he's still got more to do.
Yeah.
Right? That's
Like,
that,
what else do you have to
that's
prove?
that's
Yeah.
crazy, right? So
I get
it's
it.
really, really impressive. Uh God bless him. I hope he stays healthy, and seems to be a great ambassador for the sport, so like, what else could you say? It's just, I'll leave it at this. I never thought, dude, that when we were powerlifting, well, when I was powerlifting, when you were doing strongman, whatever, I never thought that there'd be people that would come along that would make the weights that like Dan Green was lifting look tiny by
A snack.
comparison.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
here we are. This is
Crazy.
what happens. This guy
Dan
shows
was such
up.
a freak.
Yeah. And granted, Dan is like a full weight class underneath Colton. Colton is growing into either I think the 308 at this point. Like, he's a light. I don't think he was. I think he was a 242, then maybe a 275. Whatever it is, I think he's not even at the top of the weight class for his next weight class. So he's
He weighed
growing
in at
into it.
276 for
There you
this
go.
one. I think
There
you're
we go.
allowed a
So
pound leeway, but
yeah,
I don't know if he cuts weight or if he's, if
he's
he's like
not that
closer to.
big.
No, he's not. He's not.
Like, again, to the average person, yeah, the guy's jacked, but compared to the people you and I have seen, like, he looks less muscled than Dan Green,
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. He's
which is
stocky,
crazy.
just thick. I
Yes,
do want to read
yes.
off before we move on from him. I want to read off of his total and his each lifts, each best lift. So it's 2,700 pounds, 2,700.7 pounds for his total. It means his best lift from squat, bench, and deadlift. His squat, which is always the opening lift in powerlifting, 1,003.1. His bench press, again, this is in knee sleeves. There's a massive difference for those who don't know between knee sleeves and knee wraps and how much you can leverage out of the wraps because they're much tighter. There's a spring out of them. But anyway, knee sleeves, even more impressive. Bench press, 611.7 pounds. And deadlift, 1,085.7. That's just, oof, man. I can't wait. I can't wait. And fun fact about what you said earlier about people who get injured and that's just it. Sometimes that is it. I do think if he's made it this far, he's innately durable. And a little fun story, not fun story, a true story about Big Z, Zydrunas Savickas. He tore both of his patellar tendons off the bone like in his early 20s. So I had patellar tendonitis, and that took me out of strongman. Like, I'm a big pussy. It took me out of strongman big time because I just could not handle the pain. I was in agony a lot. And Zydrunas Savickas tore those tendons that I was complaining about being a little inflamed off the bone in his, I think it was like 24, 25, and then came back to still win the most contests of anyone in strongman history, set tons of records, smash his own log press record over and over and over again. So I think if you get hurt young enough, you can come back. There's a certain tipping point with, like, if you're in your mid to late 30s and you get hurt, it's like
Like,
probably over for you, and your hunger's
well,
not there anymore either. So I hope he can total 3,000. That would just be, I think that record would last for a long, long, long time. I want to know, just real quick, I want to look up, Jesus Oliveras.
yes.
I think he has, let me see his total. Let me see. Best total. I don't want to get too much dead air here. Best total. I just want to compare them because he's at super heavyweight, way heavier
Yes.
body weight, and he also squats in knee wraps. Let me see here. Wow. 2,543 pounds. So being probably 50 to 70 pounds heavier, squatting in knee wraps, he's still the 100 and some pounds.
Is he an IPF lifter? He is, right?
I believe so. I believe
So,
so.
I will say this. I'm
You got
not
to walk
saying
it
that.
out.
Well, it's also they also do technically drug test. So at the very least, it's you can probably still do drugs, but you have to be maybe a little bit less cavalier about it. So
Interesting. Okay.
like
It's a good
again,
fact.
important things to keep in mind. Doesn't fucking matter. Again, people, if you think you could just bick up with some testosterone and go squat what Jesus Oliveras is doing,
Yeah.
I don't. I got a bridge I can sell you for $1 billion. Whatever's in your bank account, sir,
Yeah.
you can give it
Yeah.
to me. So listen, Colton's a freak, dude. He's on his way to becoming one of the greatest lifters of all time. The only thing that would keep him from being considered is you'd have to almost get into the nitty gritty argument of like relative strength. Like, is Ed Cohn a better lifter because he
Pound for
competed at
pound.
190? Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
But when it's going to come to total poundage lifted, there's no one near this guy right now. Just
Ever. Actually, ever now at this point.
it's crazy. He's got like the Stan efforting type of bench press. Stan was benching in the 600s when he was powerlifting, and that's like usually part of being a bodybuilder. Bodybuilders have good benches because they're so thick. But then he's got the elite lifts in literally everything else. So he's incredible. But it's funny. Speaking of getting injured in your 30s and not coming back. We have to talk about Conor McGregor. You brought this up before.
Oh yeah.
We went on the air,
Yeah.
dude.
Take the lead on that one, buddy.
Dude. To our audience who might be thinking otherwise, and if you're listening to this show, you're an intelligent person, so I don't think you are thinking otherwise. But I will tell you, Mystic Mac is never coming back. Okay? I was so impressed by Conor's brief but superstar run to the top in the UFC, in professional mixed martial arts. You'd never seen someone so exciting in the octagon, on the microphone, a guy that had a absurd amount of self-belief, an incredible amount of confidence, just an insane desire to improve. But by the same token, that star that burns really bright, it can go out pretty quick.
Yes.
Okay. And I was almost stunned that the fight even took place. I almost felt like something would happen. Conor would get caught doing something crazy or whatever. He'd pull out of the fight. I didn't even really believe that he would show up just because it's not even a knock on him. It just seems like every time he was going to fight, something happens. Something crazy happens.
Well,
there's a legal issue. There's whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But for those who don't know, Conor tore his ACL, 5 seconds into the fight?
What a weird landing. What a strange landing.
Tore his ACL. All of us
Yeah.
who were strength coaches, we knew it was the ACL. We saw the knee go valgus. You saw the way that it planted. He didn't slip and fall and hurt his knee. He slipped because he hurt his knee. Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what happened. And I guess the moral of the story here is, first of all, you don't get good at anything by not doing it for 5 years. Right? You haven't competed in 5 years. He's a naturally powerful guy. You could imagine the nervous energy and tension in his body as he throws that crazy kick and lands in a weird position. Like, there's part of that. Conor obviously has had a significant lower body injury over the years. There's no question in my mind that Conor went on PEDs to heal that up. And there's no question in my mind that I think he took it a little too far. You could see by the aging in his face. You could see by the way his body and face looked when he was on PEDs. He probably got a little bit too gung-ho about it. And here's a guy that was also obviously using recreational drugs and he was out of control. Okay. 39 or 38. How old is he? 39?
I think he's 38. Let me see.
His birthday was literally on the 14th. So
I think he's my age.
I think he's 38. I'm pretty sure. That is a late age to be fighting, especially in lighter weight classes. It can be done. Like, Volkanovski still competes on a high level, but that's a guy that lives like a monk, takes perfect care of himself, and has not strayed too far from the professional athlete lifestyle. Conor, he went crazy, man, and it was great to see. I did not think he was going to win that fight at all. It wasn't like they were feeding him another guy on the same level of like age and maybe relative physical decline. They fed him a top contender.
Max Holloway is
a top
He's a serious
contender.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, man, I don't know what else there is to say. I mean, PED abuse, recreational drug abuse, combined with being out of the gym. You said this a long time ago, Ian, which is like, if you're injured, you can't train. That sucks. Okay, but obviously your opponents or potential opponents are training the entire time that you're injured, right? But the other thing that's happening when you're not training, whether be it from being injured or just from not wanting to train, you're losing work capacity. You're losing physical resilience. Okay. Like, and Randy Couture fought till he was 47, much like Dan Henderson, because they were always in shape. They always trained. Okay. Max Holloway, always training. Okay. Max Holloway, I believe, famously would take months off from sparring to let his brain heal up. Like, I believe he was the fighter that said, hey, I got to take care of my brain, no sparring for a little bit. Like, Volkanovski is a disciplined animal of a person. Okay. What else? I don't want to
Yeah.
insult the guy.
No,
I don't
no,
want to
no.
insult the guy.
I mean, listen, any 5-year layoff is very hard to come back from. I think that it seemed like he was practicing that kick a lot in practice. He maybe wanted to come out like a flash and maybe just catch Max and put him down quickly and like be that a miracle moment, like the Jose Aldo moment where he knocked him out so quick. And that was just like that was where the Mystic Mac really kind of was born. But like you said, to have the charisma on the mic, to have the self-promotion ability. It's one thing to talk shit. Like Paddy Pimblett is trying to pull that off, where he's trying to become the guy to do that again. First of all, I can't understand a word the goddamn guy says. Conor McGregor has a heavy accent, but at least he made his insults coherent, whereas Paddy Pimblett is not really, he's got to work on his English, sad to say, before he can become that superstar. He's very talented, but yeah, man, I think age had something to do with it, but I've trained a lot of like soccer players in their early 20s, and if your knee goes a certain way, it's gonna give no matter how old you are or how young you are. So if he landed like that when he was 22, he might have done the same injury. I just think he wouldn't have overextended himself so much if he wasn't so maybe like ring rusty.
I totally agree with you. That's the best way to put it.
Listen, Dominic Cruz in the post-fight interview said it best. He goes, when you are going into the cage like that, the nerves you feel like you're being shot out of a cannon. So imagine that. Now, that's when you're in the game and you're consistent, right? You don't take a 5-year layoff, then take a 5-year layoff. He said it just completely explodes that feeling. And now you don't have the experience or the recent experience to actually taper all those emotions and anxiety and focus it and channel it, right? So I think he just got too excited. He came out. It was a very, very rare, unique, unfortunate set of circumstances that led to his injury. I wanted to see him. I feel like he could actually still compete among the best. Maybe not the best in the world anymore, but I think he could still compete in the top 10 for sure. If he stayed healthy and if he, you don't lose that skill that he had and the fighter instinct that he had. So I don't know. I just think that if he does make a comeback, which he's claiming to, he might actually start to compete in the top 10. Might not be that magical ascent that he had once, but I think if he was saying this or somebody else was saying this, that he's like almost killing himself slowly with this lifestyle that he has now. Hundreds of millions of dollars, all these things that he's doing. So I think this is like, some people say you might get complacent. You might get, you're too far gone. You're too rich. You don't want it hard anymore. You're not hungry anymore. Maybe he's hungry to like stay alive and be a decent person still. And that's why he's coming back to fighting, because the discipline it takes, the regimen you're on. If you're training for a fight, you won't do cocaine all the time, like maybe sometimes, but not all the time. So maybe he's trying to save himself from his current lifestyle, and I respect that. I just think he might be better off from broadcasting at this point. Like most guys who reach a certain age, like Dominic Cruz, dude, who's hurt for like 4 straight years. He's one of the best ever. Yeah. He was just hurt all the time, like
ACL tear after ACL tear.
Yeah,
literally.
And then Conor, like when you break your tibia or fibula, that's a horrific, traumatic injury emotionally. Like I don't think Anderson Silva was ever the same after that. Like your confidence must plummet. Just so tough.
Anderson Silva, in his comeback fight against Nick Diaz, literally cried like a baby after the fight was over from the emotional relief of coming back and being able to throw that kick. And Anderson Silva had fought kickboxing. He was already in his 30s when he was dominating MMA, or late 20s. It's a guy that had a lot of experience. Like he was a wreck from it, because it was a huge thing for him to come back from. I will say, I think he's finished fighting at the top level. I don't think that he's one of the things that top level guys seem to develop. And if he has developed this, we've just never seen it in the cage, is they start to develop more ways to win. And I haven't seen that from him. Now, granted, like some of the fights that he's lost, like, okay, it's going to be tough to say out wrestle Khabib Nurmagomedov, right?
Of
So like,
course.
okay,
Yeah.
if he was working on his wrestling, yeah, we weren't going to see it in that fight, sure, okay. You know, when your leg gets broken fighting Poirier, okay, guess what? Like, we didn't get a chance to see what you were going to do either.
I know.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Sadly.
So who knows? But I will say the one thing that I thought of when he threw that crazy kick, and this could be me looking too far into it, but I was reminded of when Crow Cop was in the UFC. And one thing that always struck me was that when Crow Cop fought in Pride and K1, he took his time to set up the left high kick. When he got in the UFC and he just obviously wasn't comfortable in there and was not doing well, he just began throwing it all the time.
The pressure gets to you.
Yeah,
The
like, I
pressure
got to
gets
get
to
out
you.
of here. I'd like, let's see
Sure.
if I can get this guy out of here, you know? The thing that
Like
really
Fedor.
was
He
amazing
rushed.
about Connor's, you know, his left hand, that straight left, was he always had the confidence he would find it eventually, but he didn't come out throwing it, you know, from the hilt like right away. Like, you know, you think about his fight against Eddie Alvarez, how he was so relaxed in front of Alvarez, and then
Methodical.
that was probably his best performance. But I think the only fight left, in my opinion, for Connor, okay, at the very least, it's a test fight for if he has anything left in the tank. I think he should come back and do a trilogy with Nate Diaz. And then I think, yeah, if he starches Nate Diaz, who Nate's also past his prime, I'm sure maybe they could talk about, hey, you know, what else is next? But he's got one fight left on his deal. The UFC is not going to sign him for that same level of money that they signed him for the time before. He's going to have to understand and accept that. Who
I
knows
don't think he
if
cares.
that's. I hope you're right. I mean, and you know, but it's weird, Ian, because on one hand, selfishly, I want to see the guy perform and I want to
Yeah.
be wrong. But on the other
Same.
hand, how many times have you seen great fighters stay in there too long and get starched? And then
All
you're
the time.
like, yeah, it's almost
every
more
fighter.
common than not. Yeah, I mean, bro, watching Mike Tyson fight Jake Paul, it was like, what did we?
Well, that was extreme. Big
Yeah,
cash
but
grab. Big cash grab.
still, like, it's like,
But how do you know when you're done before you're actually beat? So, like, you know, GSP suffered the loss early on to Matt Serra, and then he came back and had one of the greatest careers ever. But then he eventually knew when it was time that he was losing his touch, he was losing his speed. You know, John Jones, he's pretty much seems like he's hanging it up at this point, undefeated. So, but Khabib, like there's questions like if they stayed longer, if anybody stays longer, you will get beat eventually. Even John Jones, he had a couple of close calls.
Yeah.
He's the greatest ever, but he had a lot of close calls. The Gustafsson fight, the Reyes fight, yeah. So he had so many close calls that could have went either way. But you know, sometimes it takes a big man to hang up something that you're best at when you're on top of it. When you're on top of your game and you're the champion and for that long and really undefeated or close to it, it's hard to hang it up. Your pride scratches at you, I'm sure.
The thing with GSP, and I'll leave it with this, that I think is interesting too. Like, I was talking to you before we went live. I was like, yo, I've got a staph infection on my shoulder right now. And I felt like it was an act of God because I kept rushing back to jiu-jitsu and re-injuring my neck. And so now I had to take some time off and go on antibiotics and everything. GSP, he developed all sort of colitis during the Michael Bisping fight. And
Jesus.
had a serious problem getting the food down to even gain the weight.
So during the prep for the fight,
Yeah,
I mean.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And so he, you know, he had a major problem with food digestion. Dude, if you're an athlete, you can't sleep or eat, you're fucked. You're in serious trouble. Okay.
Was that catch weight?
No, it was 185. He fought for the
Wow.
185 title. You know what I mean? So he was trying to, I guess, get up to close to 200, and he couldn't even do it. I think he cut from like 190 or something. Like, it was
Which
like,
he was already.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
was already for 170. He was 190. So
And so, couple things here. He, I think, chose to look at it like, this is my body telling me time is up, time to go.
Smart guy.
But also, dude, like, your body also, part of what we say, you have great genetics for something. You know, you look at it and you think, when I was younger, I would have thought about fast twitch muscle fibers, or, you know, thyroid function, necessity for fat loss, or for bodybuilding, you know, muscle insertions and origin points and whatnot. But also, like, things like gut health. If you can't get food down because of the genetic predisposition, your training is going to be sabotaged. I have a training partner who's excellent at jiu-jitsu, but he's never where he wants to be because he has serious stomach health issues. And no matter what he does, he has a tough time getting it under control. And so he'll do a tournament and he'll gas out after the first match. And it's just because he can't eat. He can't get any food down. Okay. That's a limiting factor. And to GSP's credit, is like, he knew, like you said, eventually you will get beat. Okay, it's going to
eventually.
happen. Okay,
Yeah.
but then on top of that, he has to deal with knowing I might have lost to a guy that I know I could beat because my stomach said no. Who wants to live with that?
No,
I
that's
wouldn't want to live with
exactly.
that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to live with that. I'd be gone. See you later. You know, I'm not going to let some guy dance on my grave because I couldn't eat anything for 6 weeks before a fight. Fuck out of here. So I agree. It
Well
takes
said.
a big man to walk away from it. Um, and one little comment, dude, was you were talking about Dominic Cruz. I was just thinking about one of our all-time favorites, Chuck Liddell, and how as I get older and I'm around a lot of fighters and they talk about the nerves, how badass the nickname the Iceman is because supposedly Chuck Liddell never got nervous. Like
That's hard
you want
hard
to
to
talk
believe,
you want
but
to talk
I
about like a scary thing though. A guy who's got that totally under control to where his psycho coach calls him the Iceman. Like, yeah, I'm pretty scared of that. There's no
yeah,
like
he was
at,
scary.
yeah,
He
at the
really
very
was.
least he was getting 100% out of his body that day because his mind wasn't holding him back, right?
Yeah.
And that's a
Yeah.
big thing in competition too. But yeah, dude, it's we're I'll be 40 in 30 days.
Nice.
Uh, and at this point in my life, I've seen how many generations of boxing and MMA fighters come and go, come up as prospects, go out as older men. And so at this point, I'm used to that cycle. You're used to that cycle, right? And I'm at the point now at 40, when I see this cycle come, I'd rather see the guys that I cheered for go out with their health and their brain intact. Okay,
Definitely.
than hang on for too long. And it's painful to me that there are people. Really think about this, Ian. The only time they've ever seen Chuck Liddell fight was his last fight against Tito Ortiz.
Sad.
That's
They
that's
don't
unacceptable.
because
That's
they think he's washed.
unacceptable.
They think they only see washed up. They only see on his way out. They only see past his prime. They don't see the ferocity and
Yeah,
the
yeah,
savagery that he had
yeah,
when he was young and how dominant he was. He was the sport.
yeah,
Let's not kid ourselves. Post Pride UFC, that whole let's say first I don't even know maybe 5 years that he was in the UFC. He was the guy, the poster child on every energy drink, ad. He was on every, he was the man. He was the
yeah.
Conor McGregor of that time. Like that kind
Yes.
of, maybe not as good mic skills, but yeah, I wonder if that was really true. Maybe he's just a sociopath. How do you not get nervous before a fight? How do you not have any emotions before a fight? It's like Fedor. He didn't show it, but he must have had butterflies. But one thing about Conor, last thought on Conor is like he always seemed to work well under pressure, where some people
Yep.
crumble under pressure.
Yep.
So to see this performance, whatever it was, I always get like the GSP quote, "I am not impressed by your
By your
performance."
performance.
Dude, one of the best lines. But I just feel like Conor, I don't know. I think he usually does very well under this level of pressure, even coming back after this long. And so if he didn't throw that, I wonder what would have happened. That's
Yeah.
all I'll say.
All right. Now,
Woo!
yeah, we got some crazy stuff here. I want to say one thing real quick. There's a video going around. I saw Greg Doucette post it, and I just wanted to know, you worked in health clubs for a while. I'm not going to pull it up. You can go look it up on Greg Doucette's Instagram. It's a body cam shot from a police officer that is attempting to remove a woman from a gym because the woman refuses to honor the gym's dress code. Okay, the lady's dressed, too provocatively, and the people at the front desk, one of which you could tell was a woman, like her voice was a female voice. Basically, she's saying, every time I ask this woman to honor the gym's dress code, she gets belligerent and aggressive or whatever. So the cops show up and they're like, listen, you have to leave. Like, the cops have been called on you. And she's like, what's the problem? I'm working in on this alone. And she just goes back to training. She just like does mountain climbers, just goes back to, and the cop is like, what do you mean? Like, this is not about like, you're not sharing the squat rack. Like we've been called because you're violating the rules of the business. And they're like, no, miss, like you have to leave. Like this is private property. They want you out of here. You need to go. Okay. And the lady refuses and gets aggressive with the cops. And bro, they grab her. They cuff her. She face plants on the squat rack because they take her out of her mountain climber and they cuff her. And she starts like screaming and getting crazy. And the body camera cuts. And then at the end, one of the cops is like, you understand that you just kicked the police officer in the groin, don't you? Okay. So in her flailing like refusal to leave this gym, this lady accidentally assaults a police officer and resists arrest. And there's the comment section. There's a lot of people that are saying like, oh, how dare they interfere with her right to dress or whatever. And it's more like, as someone who owned a gym, you have rules, and those rules need to be followed. And if someone doesn't want to follow the rules, okay, then you are welcome to go to a private business that has the rules that you want to live with. Okay. But the most insane thing about it was like the modern, not all of them, but a lot of women today, especially in the fitness industry, the hot chick-itis of like, I have such a sense of entitlement that I could basically tell a cop to go fuck himself, okay, and go back to my workout, and that nothing will happen to you is ludicrous.
Yeah.
It's completely ludicrous.
Yes.
And there is no equivalent of BLM for gym chicks. No, no one's marching in the streets for you. Okay, like Ian, I'm telling you, if you watch this video, the entitlement and the arrogance that she has towards both the police and the staff. As a gym owner, I already sided with the gym owners because I understood what they were doing. But then on a character issue alone, I was like, this woman's got to go. To the point of where I felt bad for the cop because you knew the cop was just like, oh God,
I
like
don't want to slam
I'm
this
about to be
lady.
made. I'm about to be made famous by this woman. This
Or
is
infamous.
This is so easy to deal with. Okay, and she refused to do it. And Ian, it's like, how do you handle that in your health club management days?
So I've never had that extreme of a situation before. I'd say the one closest one was even more strange, to believe it or not. It was this lady was not a member, snuck past, just, I don't know, snuck past the front desk. The front desk was in Fort Knox. She just walked in when somebody was on the phone or whatever. Went to the ladies' locker room, and she proceeded to take a 9-hour shower. And this is like severe mental illness, though. I'm going to let you know beforehand. So basically, she had a polka dot towel. And the only reason we knew that she was in there for that long, because no one's paying attention to who goes in and comes out of the showers in any locker room. It was the cleaning staff was like, listen, she came to the front desk and the management. They were like, listen, there's this polka dot towel. It's been in there since like 2 p.m. And it was like 6, 7 p.m. at this point. And that was just, and then we had to look at the security footage to find out when she actually came in. But basically, this lady, Walgreens was upstairs. Our gym was in the basement. She went upstairs. She bought 5 bars of soap. There's, I think, 3 conditioners, 3 shampoos. And by the end of this, she went through all of that. You know how you rub a bar of soap down to the nub?
Yeah, dude.
She ran through 5 full bars of soap in that time. She went through total bottles of conditioner and shampoo, which takes you months normally. One bottle takes you months to go through. She went through them in a matter of hours. So she might have had some obsessive compulsive disorder where she had to come in and do this. And basically, we kept asking her to come out. Not we, female staff, would go in and ask her to come out, and she was very defiant. And then one of the managers at the time was a big lady, and she just went in there and kind of like physically took her out. Which she probably shouldn't have done that, but she went in and got her out. And then by the time she got her out to the front desk and had a towel over her, the cops were already there, and they kind of just agreed that it was a mental health issue. But she didn't seem, when you spoke to this lady after she came out, she was like, what did I do wrong? I was in there for 15 minutes. Like, it was nuts. It was kind of nuts. So gyms are public places in a sense. And whether this lady was a member or just snuck in, it gathers many different people, many smart people and great people, and many disturbed and mentally ill people. It's just a public setting. So you're going to find a mixed bag of personalities and mental health status. But yeah, man, how would I deal with that? Yeah, just let the cops handle it. I mean, I wouldn't deal with it personally as a employee or owner of the gym. I would just let the authorities take care of it. That's always what you do. Like, my brother works in retail. He says, you don't stop anyone stealing. He goes, you just, they walk out. You can't. Exactly. You can't. Yeah. You can't physically restrain them. So until authorities get there. So you have to just like wave at them, and you shouldn't do that. What power do you have anymore if somebody just gathers a bunch of shit and walks out of your store? But yeah, it's messed up. It's messed up. But I wonder, like, was she in a bathing suit, lingerie? Like, what was she in that was that bad?
She was wearing like just a tiny sports bra, and to be honest, it's kind of modern. For lack of a better term, well, I'm not going to use any. YouTube has some aggressive terms of service. We'll just say it's, in my opinion, she was dressed inappropriately. I would not want her to wear that at my gym, but unfortunately, public consensus nowadays is that you could basically dress like a prostitute and no one could do anything about it.
It's encouraged.
And these people were not having it. Apparently, they'd had issues with her in the past. Again, she's a hot chick, so she is used to the world bowing down to her, and that's it. But I'll leave you with this, and then we have to get to the Action Hero tournament.
I know, the meat.
I've never told you the story before. When I worked at GNC, which was for a period of time, I guess from when I was like 19 to like my mid 20s or whatever, I worked in a number of different GNC locations. I worked in
Tough areas.
Hempstead, West Hempstead. I worked in Elmont. I worked at Roosevelt Field. All of the guys that were working there were young guys that knew each other. So a guy would get promoted and go to a store, and they'd be like, "Hey, you want some hours? Come over and work for me," type deal. Okay, so I was working at the GNC in Elmont, New York, okay, which has long since been closed down, but it was in between, I think, a Staples or an Office Max and an FYE, like a, for our young audience, a place that sold DVDs and CDs, things that no one buys anymore, okay? And it was in a Home Depot shopping center. And the manager of the FYE, I don't know his name because all we ever called him was Frank Castle, okay? And I saw this guy every day. He was a customer. He was a great dude. It had to have been like 2009, 2010. Ian, this man would not stand for theft and would physically assail anyone who walked out of the place. You'd be outside, like we would sit outside the store because GNC, it's not like a nonstop all day thing. You got to rush of customers. So if it was nice weather, you'd stand outside, drink an energy drink. I watched this guy like chase down shoplifters like Lawrence Taylor, sack them, rip a DVD out of their bag, and
Really?
then have someone call the police. And there's so many crazy stories, but here is the one that I'll never forget. A sedan pulls up in front of the FYE and they park in the fire lane. Okay. And the way you know something bad is about to happen is that they leave the back door open. So whoever's fleeing could just jump into the car.
It's a getaway car.
So,
Yeah.
so I'm looking at this and I'm like, all right, something's going down here. I'm gonna pay attention, bro. Before you know it, there's a young hoodlum is running out of the FYE, and Frank Castle, he gives chase. The guy jumps into the back seat, and Frank jumps into the back seat with him. Okay, so
Oh my
now they're
gosh.
tussling in the
That's
back
nuts.
seat, and the Punisher's like punching him, and the guy's on the bottom like punching back, and the driver, who is by no means a professional criminal, he panics. Okay, and he throws the car in reverse, smashes into the car behind him, throws it in drive, smashes into the car in front of
Oh
him,
my
throws it in
God.
reverse, smashes into the car again. Okay, so now there's everyone is hearing this. Okay, and the Punisher gets like thrown from the vehicle, but the cops saw this. Okay, and caught them on the turnpike because now it's a hit and run. Now they're on the hook for like 4 different crimes.
Wow.
Eventually, after another incident where a guy got out, I don't know what he stole. It had to be something small enough that it was not consequential and that he could run fast enough. The guy got out on foot, and maybe there was a team of guys, and so he didn't get one of the guys who stole. So the Frank Castle comes out, and he's lost sight of the perpetrator. The guy's running now past the Home Depot. There's a security guard who's leaving work. Ian, I swear to you, this is true. He has his own pickup truck, and he's like, "Get in the flatbed. I saw where he went." So Frank Castle, he jumps in the back of the truck, and you see them like tear ass all the way down by the Home Depot, and then they pull up like next to the shoplifter, and Lawrence Taylor just jumps out and onto the concrete and just sacks this guy down, and eventually corporate transferred him to Roslyn because they were like, "You're gonna get killed. Like this is your Medal of Honor. Like you can't possibly keep doing this. Like someone's going to come back and kill you. Like there has to be like a bounty on you for just like." And he would beat the shit out of these people, like just
But was the
pure
DVD
ferocity.
of Eat, Pray, Love worth getting stabbed to death
Of
by
course
somebody
not.
who is like,
Of course
like,
not.
what are you doing?
Yeah,
Why would you
yeah.
risk your life? Because you don't know what these people are capable of. I mean,
No,
maybe they're just
no.
teenagers looking for a video, but like they could be somebody who's potentially dangerous who could stab you.
Mhm.
Dude, that's nuts. What a cowboy. I kind of like
Well,
it.
No, dude.
Different time. Even
He's
though
the kind
only
of guy
it
you want to
seems-
hire. He's the kind of guy that if you were hiring, like we were the last generation that some of us took stealing and that stuff seriously. Like when I was coming up as a retail worker, there wasn't all of these laws that protected the shoplifter. Now there are. Back then,
Sucks.
you could
Terrible.
something shady could happen with the shoplifter, and the cop's going to be like, "I didn't see that." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nowadays, there's cameras everywhere. It's a different story. There wasn't, at least that I'm aware of, there's this footage of this dude like German suplexing a 17-year-old on pavement and then taking the DVD of Die Hard with a Vengeance out of his pocket. I mean, like, did he do it? I'm going to say I saw some stuff, but, yeah, we're talking
German
about like,
suplex.
jumping into the back of a car, causing a hit and run. The sack out of the pickup truck remains one of the most insane things that I've ever seen. Okay. Just the lack of regard he had for his own body to pull that off was completely ludicrous. Retrospect, hell of an athlete. Hell of an athlete, dude. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, he was not
No
jacked.
warm
He
up
was,
to sprint
yeah,
like that
yeah,
after someone
exactly.
did not pull a hammy. That's
Hell of an
durability.
athlete. Now, I wasn't viewing it this way, but I suppose that's excellent transition material from Conor McGregor to the action hero tournament, because this guy was a real life action hero. And in some respects, like the guys
NRL.
we're about to cover, he was playing a vigilante of sorts. Okay. So this week's matchup, it's going to be our first matchup, and I want you guys to understand this is a big bracket. This is going to take a long time.
I want to read
This
off
is
the
this,
names of the list just so everyone
yes,
has a context of
this
who's
is
on it.
going to get better. Okay. But we got to figure out exactly how we're gonna do this. We already have an idea, but this will become more concise, more informative, and better as we develop our system of doing this. By the way, I don't think anyone's ever done this before. So that's the other thing.
That's why I'm
If
excited
you're
about
sitting
it.
here going like, you guys didn't do that, would you do that a good job? First of all, good. You come up with an idea and you do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Fuck you. Anyway,
Exactly.
Ian, read us off the list, please, will you, sir?
All right. So we have 24 total action heroes. I'll start from the top. This is in no particular order. This is just the way I wrote it down. Denzel Washington, Liam Neeson, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Dwayne Johnson, Jet Li, Gerard Butler, Kurt Russell, Dolph Lundgren, Matt Damon, Nicolas Cage, Jackie Chan, Will Smith, Harrison Ford, Wesley Snipes, Chuck Norris, Vin Diesel, Sylvester Stallone, Tom Cruise, Steven Seagal, Jason Statham, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis, Mel Gibson, Keanu Reeves. Stacked.
Stacked.
I mean, I'm sure there's people we miss, but we may do this again down the road where we include other people or do like a B tier or something, or people we missed. But for now, this is the list we're running with. It'll probably take so long. We can probably add as we go, quite honestly. But today's matchup, Eric, take it away. I want you to.
Well, today's matchup is interesting because this happened by accident. So what I did was Ian had already come up with a really nice graphic for it, but I noticed that the seeding was a little off. And so basically the way that we had it set up, it was like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Stallone to face each other in like the second round, which that's
It's
got to
seeded
be
like a college basketball tournament, right?
Yes.
So it was like
so
a
I
double
sat
elimination
down,
also.
I developed a single elimination bracket, but whatever, we could redo it. But I seeded it from 1 to 20. Okay. And so I had like Stallone and Schwarzenegger at the top. So that's why they're on far away from each other on the bracket. And eventually I added 24 because we didn't have Wesley Snipes on the original list, which I thought was a problem. And then Nick Cage snuck on because there was a Nick Cage action era that has to, if you're going to have Seagal, who did like 5 good action movies, then you owe it to Nick Cage, because Nick Cage did some insane shit
Definitely
in the early to mid 90s. So he had to be on there. And it just so happened that the way the seating was set up, that these two guys were directly next to each other in the middle. So this is like the most evenly matched matchup of the entire bracket, which is Liam Neeson versus Denzel Washington. Okay. 2 guys that if you were to run down this list, you'd say, well, those are the 2 best actors on the list, with the exception of maybe Kurt Russell. Okay?
Arguably. Mel Gibson.
Yes, exactly. But those 4 guys are in a class by themselves when it comes to acting ability, right?
Yes.
Everyone else is like below or maybe really far behind, depending on who we're talking about.
That's there.
But here are 2 legit dramatic actors. I mean, here's Denzel Washington, Academy Award winner for Training Day. Liam Neeson, Schindler's List. Okay. Guys that did serious dramatic roles, did not just graduate into action films early on. 2 guys that, and it's kind of a chicken or the egg question here, you could argue pushed each other into this role. It really depends on when you want to say the older accomplished actor becomes action hero thing starts. Mel Gibson did action, then he went serious drama, then he went back to action. Okay. But there's this movement around 2007, 2008 to where you start to see older accomplished actors do action movies. Okay. So I initially looked at the timeline and said, okay, this timeline starts with Taken in 2008. Okay. But if you look at action movies that Denzel Washington has done, you could go back to 2003 and see Man on Fire, which is obviously 5 years prior to Taken. Now, Man on Fire is a longer movie. It's a much more serious, dramatic movie than, say, Taken or later on The Equalizer. But you could say that The Equalizer is the franchise for Denzel, and Taken was the franchise for Liam Neeson, and there was three of each, and they were in many respects two things that mirrored each other. An older guy, maybe a little bit past his prime, trying to walk away from all the negativity, gets sucked back in, and now he's using all of his skills to take revenge on a character who is so clearly bad. In any of these movies, there's no gray area. There's no like De Niro from Heat where you're like, but I kind of get it. That's not in
Yeah,
these
yeah,
movies. Yeah, we're
yeah.
talking just human traffickers. Okay,
You're not rooting for Marco from Tripolia, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
At no point in time are you rooting for Marco.
Yes, exactly. There's no point in this movie where you're like, oh, that guy's got a point. There's
Marco,
Did you ever think about the socioeconomic factors that created Marco from Tripolia? No, the movie does not have you thinking that way. Okay, and so here are two guys that their careers kind of mirror each other, and also one thing we'll unpack here: neither one of these guys had a reputation for being like super athletic in their films. Denzel probably a better athlete than Liam, but still not. It's not a guy that these are not guys that got roles because they could do crazy shit with their bodies, like say like a Dolph Lundgren or something, right?
Yes.
These are guys
Yes.
that got roles because they could act, and I think we have both of them to thank for the action movie renaissance that occurred at around about 2008.
Okay.
Okay. And
Okay.
one little aside here, I had always heard this was true, and then I looked at the timeline. It seems like it wasn't, but around the time that Taken came out, Liam Neeson's wife unfortunately was killed in a tragic skiing accident. And he was obviously destroyed over it. And a lot of people have speculated. He may have even said this. It was like he started doing these movies because he had to take his mind off his suffering. It was like, all right, there's a script. Let's do it. Let's do another script. Let's do another script. So in a way, he's staying busy, but he's bringing the seriousness of, again, a highly trained actor into these roles that in a lot of cases wasn't there. Like, like I've always said that Steven Seagal, that Taken is a Steven Seagal movie. Okay. Everything about that movie is a Steven Seagal movie. The guy, he's, a dad, he's retired. Okay. Daughter gets taken. And now, he just tears through like an entire European city and barely gets injured. Like Steven Seagal never gets injured. He fucks everybody up.
Yeah.
Like the whole trademark of a Seagal
everyone.
movie. He might get like stabbed by a butter knife in a kitchen fight. Like maybe. Otherwise,
but he won't react to it.
Yes,
he won't sell it at all.
Exactly.
That's like
exactly.
That's
exactly.
Like, yes.
So when looking at these two guys, the movies that I considered that are the most fresh in my mind for Denzel Washington were the Equalizer movies and Men on Fire. Okay, he's done other ones, but those are the ones that are the most fresh in my mind, the ones that I was able to watch. For Liam Neeson, it's obviously the Taken films, and another film, it's kind of like comparable to Men on Fire in that it is a serious dramatic movie, is The Gray, where Liam Neeson is fighting wolves in Alaska. I mean, it's a very serious. I mean, it's a dark movie, okay, but it's
I have
it's
some
excellent.
things to say about
but
that. Yeah,
but it's excellent. So those are the movies that are fresh in my mind, and I'll just close what I have to say out with this. This is not a debate over who was the better actor. It's over who was the better action hero. Okay.
Big difference.
And so if we see, I don't know how the seeding is set up offhand, but one of these guys is probably going to get demolished in the next round. Okay.
Most likely.
And it is by no means indicative of the fact that the other person is a better actor. We're not talking about that. This is strictly action hero, fuck yeah type stuff. Period.
And you know what's funny about that, Eric, is that people will only see our clips, a lot of people, and they'll troll us based on that. They'll assume that we're not. They're like, oh, but Denzel's a better actor. This and that. So you got to watch the full experience. You got to come here for the full experience to see the whole thing.
I totally agree.
But,
so first impressions for you, sir. I know where I want to take this. First impressions for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like you said, both great actors. So neither of them were, physically imposing by nature. I'd say Liam Neeson might be more imposing because he seems taller on screen than most people.
6'4".
Oh, yeah. So he seems more imposing just from that alone. They're not terribly muscular or built. They're both, like I said episodes ago with the J.K. Simmons thing, they're both good enough actors to pull off being intimidating without having to be physically jacked, or imposing, right? So the height was enough for Liam. Yeah, I'm basing my analysis here on, for Denzel, it would be Man on Fire. It would be Equalizer. I'm not going to say Inside Man, even because he wasn't an action hero in that per se, but it's a good action movie. And then I would say, what's the other one? The third one I had. It was Man on Fire, Equalizer, and Training Day. Let's say Training. Oh, he's not a hero. He's not a hero in that day, in that one. Maybe Out of Time. Out of Time was a great one too. Anyway, so and then for Liam Neeson, it was Taken. I've watched Nonstop, and then I've watched The Gray. Okay. So I will say that if we're talking like peak action hero, Taken is very hard to beat. From this matchup here, Taken is tough. Taken is a big peak, but for The Gray, let me just dive into the nitty gritty, and I'll go negative first. The Gray is a snuff film. The Gray is a nature snuff film. I did not know what The Gray was about until I started it and I watched it. I don't know if I loved it. It was really raw and gritty, but like, goddamn, like just let them all die in the plane crash. Like this was such a gritty film, and I don't know if I would even say it's that much of an action film. It's more of a survival thriller. Like, remember The Edge? You ever see The Edge with Anthony Hopkins and Alec Baldwin? Yeah. It's like that, but with no happy ending. It's like that, but no one gets out alive. And like, there's part of me respects that for going against the Hollywood grain, and part of me is like, I kind of wanted to see Liam Neeson, fight and be a badass for some time. And the only real opportunity for him to fight, they just black it out at the end and the credits roll, which again, it's dramatic. I get it. But like, it sucked all my, I was waiting this whole time for him to like break a wolf's neck or something cool. And if we're talking cheesy action, fist fighting in a wolf's den with a bunch of wolves and walking out alive would have actually sealed the deal over Denzel for me. But yeah, so Taken, he's got Taken to run on for me. I watched Nonstop, which I thought was a decent movie. Interesting plot, I guess. Not terribly action packed. It's a lot of suspense and a lot of like trying to figure out who this person is, like the mystery of who the villain is. There's that one bathroom fist fight scene. There's one scene where he fist fights half the passengers on the plane, and I don't know. The plane crash thing was pretty cool. That was a good action scene. But he's got for me, I have to narrow down my scope here. It's Taken versus Man on Fire. That's how I'm going to be. Equalizer is strong too, but I'm going to go Taken versus Man on Fire for my analysis. But I'll hand back over to you for some thoughts.
I went Taken. Well, here's the thing. Like, I'm glad we're doing this and we're figuring this out, because I also looked at it from like a franchise perspective. Like, Taken 1, 2, and 3 versus Equalizer 1, 2, and 3. The Equalizer movie is way better. Way, way, way better. And it's just, the truth is, you could do more sequels about a guy who just like wants to help people and kills bad guys than about a guy who's only trying to stop his daughter from getting kidnapped. How many times did your fucking daughter get kidnapped? I mean, at a certain point, it gets crazy. The Equalizer, it's also interesting because, like John Wick, I actually think the second one is better than the first. Equalizer 2 is really, really good. The third one, not so much. I think there's a significant drop in quality. Don't love it. But Equalizer 2, I mean, Pedro Pascal plays the bad guy. Very, very well acted film. But by the same token, you look at it and you say to yourself, which guy had better stunts? Okay. Which guy pulled these things off? Which guy was more believable as an action hero in some respects? And I think, like kind of Ian pointed out, being 6'4", it matters. Liam Neeson is very imposing, but by the same token, I don't know that Liam Neeson was in the type of physical shape that Denzel Washington was in. Okay. And we're good. I don't know that Liam Neeson was in the type of physical shape that Denzel Washington was in and had necessarily the athleticism to do it. And so the Equalizer films, the movements that Denzel is capable of performing, to me, are a little bit more believable than the Taken franchise, especially Taken 2 and 3. In Taken 2, you could tell Liam Neeson gained a lot of weight, and there's a lot of jump cuts, and so you can't really see like what the hell is going on. Okay. And also in terms of one big thing that I think has to be brought up for like action hero stuff is creativity. And the Equalizer, there is a preposterous amount of creativity in terms of these kills. I mean, just so our audience understands, the climax of the movie takes place in a literal Home Depot where Denzel Washington kills like 10 former Spetsnaz commandos with home improvement tools. Okay, like savagely, like we're
Tim
talking like
Allen.
yeah, like literally like nail guns and hammers and saws and broken glass.
That was cool.
And it's a very, very creative thing. And I guess the other thing you have to think of is like both of these movies have taken Man on Fire, Equalizer. They all have moments that set them apart from a regular action franchise, and that there are moments where the director understands that they are working with a world-class actor and lets them cook.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Absolutely.
there are monologues in these films that wouldn't be in a Schwarzenegger film. Okay. It just wouldn't
Couldn't
be
pull it
there.
off.
And so in The Equalizer, I think about his monologue versus against the Russian guy in the restaurant, where he's like, when you look at me, what do you see? And he tells the guy the whole, and he's like, he kind of goes back and forth
Yes.
with it. But in Taken, you have the famous phone call. It's like, what I have is a very unique set of skills.
Yes.
Skills that may be a nightmare for some, but
Iconic.
but underrated from that film. But I personally prefer this monologue, which is when he finally captures Marco from Chapoya. And he puts him in, like, he's in some dingy apartment, and he stabs his legs with those metal rods, and he's like running electrical current through it. And he's like, we used to outsource these types of things. Southeast Asia, South America. The electrical current was unstable. We had to resort to things like nail pulling, cutting. But here, the power is steady. Here, you could turn the power on and it'll flow all night long. And I guess the way he says it,
can you be?
I'm like, oh no! Like Walko from Chapoya knows he's done. Like there's no way. And so you've got also Denzel versus Liam, monologue for monologue, acting sequence versus acting sequence. It's a weird thing. I want to say that Liam Neeson at his best, I like his style of monologue better, but I think Denzel has more hits. And I think part of the reason is that I think, especially in the Equalizer films, I think the Equalizer films were basically Denzel Washington's greatest hits tour. I think it was like, let Denzel play the greatest hits, where I do think to a certain extent, Liam Neeson was still exploring a little bit with new characters in that thing, where by the time Denzel did Equalizer, it was like 2012, 2013. We kind of knew what this genre was going to be, and it was like, yo, just let him cook. Give him two. I would not be surprised if in his, literally in his contract, it was like, give me 2 or 3 monologues and I'll kill everybody exactly how you want them killed. No problem. No questions asked.
It's the easy part.
Yes, exactly. So
yeah,
when I look at peaks here, I'm inclined to say that I take Denzel Washington over Liam Neeson. Then I'll give you the floor. I just don't know that Liam Neeson has the density to his game here, the consistency. Okay.
Yeah.
His peaks are right there. But if I was to rattle off, again, there's Out of Time. There's The Commuter is another Liam Neeson one. There's that one where he's a fucking ice trucker. Like he's done all sorts of crazy shit.
Yeah.
But if I were to say Taken, Out of Time, and The Gray from an action perspective versus Man on Fire and Equalizer 1 and 2, I think Denzel's got him from an action perspective. Because I also agree, an action movie has to have a component of hope to it. And The Gray, there is no hope. It is just
they give you hope that because they survived the plane crash, and they give you hope that they might actually make it out alive. This guy's, he kills wolves for a living, and he, has a certain expertise, a particular set of skills, so to speak, in wolf killing. So Man on Fire was one of my all-time favorite movies, so I'm a little bit biased that way. That I watched that movie over and over again. It's such a good movie. With Taken and Man on Fire, the parallels there are like they're both kind of revenge-ish thrillers. Not so much because for most of the time in Man on Fire, he thinks the girl he was protecting is dead.
Yes.
So now it's just like there are no rules. There's nothing I have to like. They have no negotiating tactics or no leverage whatsoever because I'm just going to kill everyone. I don't have to actually extract any information from them or get something out of them. So at first it just became like a revenge thriller. Then he finds out she's still alive, and then it becomes the rescue thriller that Taken was.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta kind of consider how viewed Taken is and how quotable it is and how like publicly notable it is. Like everyone's seen it. Everybody has seen it.
Yes.
Whereas sometimes many people that I've talked to haven't seen Equalizer, right? So Man on Fire, I would say and Man on Fire, for me, Man on Fire and Taken rise to the top as like the head-to-head and who takes this. And like you said, in Taken, he has that, the very, as a viewer, very satisfying revenge scene with Marco. Ties him down to the chair. Like, you want to see the bad guy get tortured. It's hard to like want to see anyone get tortured, but like when you know this guy is so evil and he's trafficking people, you kind of like, as a viewer, you're like, oh hell yeah, get him. But with Denzel, he in Man on Fire, he has multiple scenes like that. He's got like the big fat mayor that he ties to the hood of his car, and he shoves the plastic explosive up his ass. And basically he's like, that's more of like instead of inflicting physical pain on him, that's like the psychological thing of like, clock's ticking. I can turn this off, but you have to give me everything I need to know before, you pop. So that was one when he grabs one of the enforcers and he ties his hands to the steering wheel of the car.
I was just going to say that.
And basically starts clipping his fingers off and then cauterizing them.
Yeah.
There is a level of thought that goes into Denzel's movies that God bless the writers and the creators, because like you said in the Home Depot scene, who thinks of the drill to the back of the guy's head, the staple guns, all those things? It adds an element to the action. Like he can kill you with any object, not just with guns. So like that's part of it. So yeah, I mean, and if we're talking gratuitous action, there's a lot of great car scene chases and big scenes in Taken, like the big like that construction site car chase was really good. I like that a lot. We have to consider car chases too. They're pretty cool. But then when you have the rocket launcher scene, like where he traps his victims in Man on Fire, like that, he perches up in that apartment building.
He shoots an RPG out of an apartment building.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that goes into the gratuitous action bucket. You know what I'm saying? Damn, it's hard. It's hard because I do respect Liam Neeson a lot. I just don't think when we started this, we said there's got to be longevity chops. There's got to be, a life to be able to move forward in this tournament. There has to be like some sort of, you've been doing well for years. You've been throwing out bangers for like at least half a decade, right? So I don't know if I would call anything else but Taken on the Liam Neeson side a banger. Like I wouldn't say they're great action movies. Again, I was thoroughly disappointed by The Gray. I went into it thinking it was going to be something totally different, and at the end, dude, I'm pumped. I'm like, I waited for this for like 90 minutes or however long the movie was. He tapes the knife to his hand so he can't let it go. He takes these like cocktail liquor bottles in his knuckles, right, as like almost like a more severe brass knuckle, whatever, tapes them to his hand and then breaks them, and he's ready to go. He recites that poem from his father, which is one of the most badass little themes throughout the movie. And then you realize that the poem was he was always meant to die. He was always meant to go. Like he was never going to get out alive. Like the poem kind of foreshadowed the ending. I guess I didn't realize that along the way, but that's when I wanted to see him fuck shit up. And they just robbed that from me. So I actually have a bitter taste in my mouth from The Gray, but The Equalizer's a badass. Like, again, I do like a lot of the things they do in The Equalizer, and in Nonstop for that matter, where they show you what they see. They show you what the hero sees, and they have like narrowed vision.
Yes.
So in Nonstop, he was an alcoholic, so his narrowed vision was probably from the alcohol abuse, but he was noticing certain things about the passengers. And in Equalizer, he was basically noticing his kill pattern. Like he's mapping it out and planning it and timing it. And I kind of liked also how meticulous he was and how like OCD he was about he would move his forks around and he would time his kills. So there's so many elements. If I had to, are we making a decision now, or are we going to keep going with this?
We have a little bit more time, obviously.
I'll hand it back.
So I wanted to. I think again, it's important to discuss some of the stories behind these guys, the stories behind the films, and perhaps you need to understand, audience. Not that well, I'm almost speaking to myself here because these are like revelations I've kind of made to myself as I just have gotten really into art and cinema and stuff over the years, is that what makes a great action hero isn't just the actor themselves or their athletic ability or their martial arts ability. It's also the scripts that they select, and it's also the directors that they work with. Okay. And so Men on Fire is really significant because Denzel Washington, according to what I've read about him anyway, after winning the Academy Award, a well-deserved Academy Award for his performance in Training Day, okay, apparently he did not feel particularly motivated. Like he was in a weird funk space. He felt like he'd accomplished his goal. He had done all of the serious dramatic stuff, and he's just taken jobs at that point, but he's not really into it. And what happens is Tony Scott, who was the director of Top Gun, okay, Ridley Scott's brother, he's the director of Man on Fire. and reaches out to him and says, hey, I've got this idea. Do you want to do it? They get Christopher Walken involved. Christopher Walken was supposed to play the
So
evil
good.
lawyer in that movie.
Is that right?
And Christopher
With,
Walken was like,
Mickey Rourke played that lawyer,
yes.
right?
And Christopher and Christopher Walken was like, I'm tired of playing bad guys. Can I please play like a good guy? And good call on his part. Okay.
Yeah.
And this
Great job.
movie winds up completely rejuvenating Denzel's career, and it's based around now his love for this new type of action movie. Here's a guy that he proved he had the dramatic chops. And the same way that Liam Neeson did, and when we covered Nick Cage won an Oscar in one of his first movies. He's like, all right, fuck it, I'm going crazy. Like Nick,
Right?
what
else do I have to prove?
Yeah, exactly. So like
Yeah.
he then leans into the action hero stuff a lot more. And Tony Scott is a better director. Rest in peace, Tony Scott, by the way, unfortunately. But Tony Scott is a better director than a lot of the guys that Liam Neeson worked with in his action era. And then The Equalizer is directed by Antoine Fuqua, who's a very good director and kind of became like Denzel's like personal director for a lot of his films at the later part of his career. Okay. And so there's a certain chemistry that Denzel has, I feel like, with the writers and with the directors. I felt like Liam Neeson was taking roles that weren't written for him and doing really, really well, which is a sign of a great actor. But Denzel had the advantage, I think, of working with directors and writers who were making movies for him.
Got it.
And I feel like that's part of the reason why he feels so natural in a lot of these scenes. It's like, I do feel at some point when they're writing the movies, they're like, yeah, but could Denzel do that? No.
They start to match it up for him.
Exactly.
Yes.
Much the way that Tom Cruise gets. Tom Cruise has the same director, has worked with Tom Cruise for like 10, 15 years. Mission Impossible director has also directed Top Gun 2. These are being made for Tom Cruise. It's not like they put out a casting call and they're like, well, who could do it? Well, get Tom Cruise. No, that's not what's happening. They're being made for this person. So I do think Denzel has that advantage here. I think, Denzel also seems to be pretty excited in his own way to play these types of characters. I think he leaned into, I think it was something he wanted to do, perhaps more than Liam Neeson, although I think Liam Neeson eventually did want to do it. Again, this is all speculation, stuff that I've read, and just my interpretation of what's going on here. But I also think that Denzel is, what also helps him in this is he does seem to be a more believable athlete. I think he moves a little bit more quickly in the Equalizer films. The editing does not take me out of it the way that it does in Taken 2 and 3, when there's more extended fight scenes. Taken 1, the fight scenes are really very quick. It's just he gets the gun and shoots you or something. It's not like there's not a whole lot of like extended brawls in Taken relative to the Equalizer.
Nobody stood a chance. It's kind of like the Seagal style. Nobody matches up.
But again, it's so tough to just discount Neeson here, because when you think about Taken, it's just such a home run. Like, another insane part of that movie that, like, I guess I didn't understand how crazy it was until I just rewatched it, because the last time I saw Taken, I don't even think I had children. Okay.
So it's right. That's right.
So when he goes to his friend Jean-Claude's house and shows up for dinner, even though obviously he has not been invited by Jean-Claude, and Jean-Claude knows he's killed like at least 8 people in the past 24 hours. And they have this crazy fight. Jean-Claude pulls the gun and he's like, something happens when you sit behind the desk. You lose the feel, as in the feel of a loaded gun or an unloaded gun. And so he's, Liam Neeson's taking the bullets out of his gun.
Yeah.
They get into a fight, and think about, like, I kind of love this because I could almost see myself doing this if something happened to my children. There's like a fracas in the house, and he shoots Jean-Claude's wife, okay, which is crazy, but not nearly as crazy as Jean-Claude screaming. He goes, "It's just a flesh wound." Like,
the lengths you're willing to go to save your daughter is hurting other people's innocent family. Like, you go that far. But he also has like the skills enough to not shoot an artery, basically, and just shoot her.
It's just a flesh wound. Like, the way
stop being a baby about it.
The way he says it, you're like, whoa! Like, this dude, like, he's totally
nuts.
crazy.
He's nuts.
So and also Taken, again, we're talking about best action hero. Again, like Ian said, we're factoring in longevity, we're factoring in quality of films, quality of action. One of the things that we probably can't factor in too much, but it does matter, is influence, right? And I would say that I felt like Taken is one of the most influential action movies of the last 2 decades because it spurred an action renaissance. It showed that it was okay for these more accomplished actors to go back to these scripts and that they would not lose any street cred. I think there was a lot of worry, like, if I do this, I'll be an action guy and nobody will cast me for more serious films, when actually the opposite was true. Nobody cared that Liam Neeson did Taken. And to your point, Ian, I remember when Taken came out because everybody was talking about it. Someone at my job told me to watch it because it was such a crazy thing. Like, bro, you got to find this movie Taken. You have to watch it. It's crazy good. And
Phenomenon at the time.
I remember like pirating it online and then later being
Yeah.
like, I have to pay for this because I feel like I stole from
I
the
want to
universe.
contribute. Yeah, I want to contribute to this.
Where with the Equalizer films, that really wasn't the case. The question remains, is that because the monoculture that we live in had been broken apart? So at that point in time, that was 5 years from 2008 to 2013, a lot happened.
Too saturated, maybe?
Yeah, yes. But it was what Liam Neeson did was revolutionary, okay, for the action genre.
Yes.
And that needs to be considered.
It also put you, I feel like why it was so successful is that it kind of like told the story that everybody would always kind of like intrusive thought, not fantasize about, but consider, like, if somebody took your kid, what would you do?
Yes.
Like, it's hard to put yourself as a viewer in Arnold Schwarzenegger's shoes sometimes, because like he's just a freak looking. He's got he's killing everyone without like, it's not almost not realistic enough to put yourself in his shoes. But for the everyman watching Taken, it's like, yeah, if someone took not only my child, my daughter. If someone took my daughter, I would kill everyone in my path to get that done, to get her back. And now you get to see that unfold with a great actor pulling it off. You said great monologues and iconic moments that everybody can quote. The fact that I know Marco from Tripolia off the top of my head, I haven't seen that movie in a few years, but it's just, it's very memorable. Taken was very memorable. It was maybe the start of this new genre of like revenge thriller, revenge action, possibly. I mean, there's definitely ones prior to that, but it seems like with Taken, he just started something that Denzel then continued almost in a way. So like, well, I don't know, because you said Men on Fire was, I didn't know the timeline. Men on Fire was prior to Taken. So Men on Fire is one of the most adjacent to Taken. And I gotta say, Man on Fire is a better movie.
Taken is leaner. But not necessarily in a bad way. Like, Taken was always supposed to be a 90-minute slam dunk action film. There's no. But what separates Men on Fire from Taken is the 45 minutes in the movie before the girl gets taken.
The build up. Well, they're emotionally hooking you.
Yeah.
They're sinking their hooks in and making you care about Dakota Fanning.
Yes,
exactly. They're driving that in, so Man on Fire is a better movie. It's a better movie, top to bottom. Like you get some of the similar components, the revenge thing, saving the innocent girl thing, you get all that, the hero, the guardian, all that. But it's top because they took the time to do that. It made it a better movie. But Precisely. Are we talking about better movie, or are we talking about gratuitous action?
I'm glad you said that.
So
we're gonna run into this.
Stay on track.
We're gonna run into this, and I think that's something that we're gonna have to resolve over the course of the tournament, which is all of these actors in these movies have, for example, Stallone has First Blood, serious build up, serious movie, then with legit action. Okay, but he's also got Rambo 3, which is his version of Taken to a certain extent in terms of just like it's lean. Gets right to the action. They're not messing around. Like, if you were to ask me, okay, hey, you watch, you're a little bit bored, you want to watch an action movie, I'm picking Taken because the emotional roller coaster of Man on Fire can be a lot to handle. Man on Fire is the better movie.
It's stressful.
Yes, but Taken is like, it's almost feel-goody in the sense of this guy just kills so many bad guys.
Well said.
And the other thing that you referenced, and I'm really glad you brought this up, and this is something that hurts Arnold Schwarzenegger, in my opinion, is Stallone always had a degree of believability because he was smaller, but he also had a crazy physique, and he had a comic book element to him, okay? Denzel and Liam Neeson, I think what makes these movies so gripping is that they look so normal. You, as the viewer, relate to them a lot more, okay? Not only do they look normal, they have more normal cares, more normal lives. It's not like, John Matrix in Commando, where like it's just like him cutting down trees and walking around like a jacked 250, and like it's just completely ridiculous. And it's beautiful in its own way. But this is very much like the grounded uh action role. And you could see here how they got the idea for John Wick from like Taken. And I would actually say that John Wick is almost like a parody of Taken in a sense, which is like, okay, this CIA agent or whatever kills everyone to get back his daughter. Okay, now we're gonna have a guy kill 100,000 times more people and over his dog. You know, like it's almost
Yeah.
like a
Magnify
ridiculous
the
parody.
damage and then
Yes.
reduce the actual loss.
Yeah, reduce the cost, right? And so I don't think that you get John Wick without Taken. I'm certain you don't get The Equalizer, although I don't know if you know this, The Equalizer is in and of itself a remake. Okay, so The Equalizer
Oh, I
was
didn't know that.
actually a British television show that ran for a few seasons, and so it is not necessarily an original idea. It was taken from a fairly long running, maybe 3 years, so maybe not that long, running television show. Obviously, Denzel took it, made it his own, and it's very much his own thing. But Taken was really truly revolutionary. Those of us that again grew up watching these movies will tell you that there was a really shitty run for action from like 96 to like '08. There were not that many good action movies. There was a lot of really bad CGI in movies at the time that were just like made a lot of things like made a lot of things unbelievable.
Sure.
Taken was a return to the grounded Steven Seagal action film. And I think to Ian's point, it's a great point. One of the things that again makes these two actors so great is because they're so grounded, because they're so believable, I think you naturally find yourself siding with them in a very visceral way, in a very like and I want to bring that up because you got to the point that I wanted to make. Fuck you, I hate you for it.
Come on, man. You're the guy. You're the man.
The opening scene in which violence takes place really in Man on Fire is him torturing that Mexican gangster in his car. Okay. And at that point, they've done such a good job at making you feel the pain of Denzel that you have no problem with them cutting a man's fingers off and cauterizing the wounds, which is insane. Dude,
that's weird. You're pumped about it.
If they opened with that movie, people would have been like, this is torture porn. I'm out.
Exactly.
Okay?
Is this like the Hostel?
Yeah,
what is it? Right?
Yeah,
like one of those?
Yeah, exactly. So you see this and it's only like the middle of the movie and they've already made you totally okay with horrifying torture. And you as the viewer, obviously, you could put yourself in the position of the characters, but the viewer is always the bird's eye, looking through the fourth wall or whatever. He's going to kill this guy. He's not just torturing him and giving him a chance to live. Like, he is going to kill this guy. Okay.
Yeah.
But the bad guy is begging and pleading for his life, where Denzel's not even going to give him a chance. He's going to torture him and he's going to like release this car off the cliff or whatever, or blow his brains out. And it's all over. See you later. Sayonara. Also, again, with a lot of the Denzel movies, we didn't touch on this either. Supporting cast. Great supporting cast in Man on Fire. Great supporting cast. I mean, Christopher Walken, you just love seeing an actor like that adopt these bit or character roles. Like, Greasy's odd as death. And he's about to paint this masterpiece. Okay,
you need a hype man. So every good action hero needs somebody to tell the lore. Like in John Wick, I know this is not that contest yet, but John Wick, like they tell John Wick's the guy you send to kill the boogeyman. Like, you need somebody to make you understand as the audience how serious of a killer this hero is.
Yes,
like that's part of it. Like in Equalizer, they don't really explain right away his background.
No.
So like that's part of like how. The one thing that took me out of Equalizer was he seemed like too nice and likable to be a cold-blooded killer. Like, what Liam Neeson and Denzel do very well is they're both likable. Like in Nonstop, when he's giving the teddy bear back to the girl, and he's very tender. Liam Neeson, he can be.
Yes.
And it's the same thing with Denzel. He's like when he's coaching the heavy guy for the security guard role, and he's an Equalizer. He's kind of tender with the prostitute, and he sees her, her struggle. He's trying not to get involved, but he can't help it at some point. Like, they're almost too tender and too nice to be like assassins. Like, you have to be, I think when I envision a real life assassin, not like a movie assassin, I envision someone who's detached from their emotions and who can't really relate with empathy or any of that. So he would see the prostitute and just go back to his book and not worry at all.
Yes.
So, that's one thing that I guess you kind of have to sprinkle in some humanity for, for that sake, for the viewer's sake.
It wouldn't be believable. Nobody would want to see this just like,
But they wouldn't be a hero, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Because
Oh
like
no,
if you're just
no.
Anton Chigurh from Old Country for No Men, you're not a hero. You're just a psycho killer, and you are the villain, like the pinnacle villain.
The Iceman, Richard Kuklinski. Yeah, nobody
Yeah,
really wants to hang out with you,
dude,
dude. But
chilling.
one thing I will say, I want your opinion on this. Now I'm starting to figure this out. Now I'm
There we
getting my
go.
feet under me. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
On that topic though, okay, one thing I thought of while watching Taken and The Equalizer was like, okay, which one of these guys, these characters, misses their line of work and wants to kill people again? And when I watched Taken, you're like, I believe that Liam Neeson would not have killed anybody if they hadn't taken his daughter.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Dude, Mr. McCall, Denzel Washington, he's looking for
Oh,
reasons. He didn't have to get involved with that hooker, dude. Like this guy
it
this
calls
guy
him.
knows that prostitution is a thing. He could have hunted down the pimps and freed the hookers before this whole thing happened. I think Mr. McCall was itching. I think that obviously he had lost his wife. That's the whole story. His wife has passed away, so maybe he's detached. He has nothing to live for, and so he's finding purpose in life by just going around just slaughtering bad guys. But I think McCall is more of a sick fuck than Liam Neeson. I think he was looking for it. I think that there was already gas. He just needed a match to be struck and thrown down.
Yeah,
He was ready.
yeah,
Where I do feel like Liam Neeson, he was like he was okay with his trying to be a dad and everything. And on the topic of supporting cast, I wanted to know what you thought about this too. Taken, dude. The mom, was it Famke Janssen? Is that her name?
yeah.
The actress?
Yes. Yep.
So unlikable. To the point of where I don't know if I hate Famke Janssen or I appreciate her for being a great actor. Like she's such a reprehensible bitch in the first part of that movie. She
Yeah.
facilitates the lying to her special forces operator husband. Like literally, like she's gonna spend the summer in Paris. Actually, no, she's gonna follow you too. By the way, I'm sorry, I don't see an 18-year-old girl in 2008 following around U2. I think it would have been a different artist, but whatever.
Yeah.
That's neither here nor there.
Fair enough.
But point is, she outright deceives the father of her child, okay, and then like gets mad at him. Like she's like, she lied to me, and she's like, well, she would never listen. You would never listen if she told the truth. It's like, but that's what a lie is.
Why she's kidnapped right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Precisely
Like,
why she's kidnapped.
literally, he knew this was going to happen and said, don't go to Paris alone. It's filled with bad people, possibly sex traffickers. Then she gets kidnapped by sex traffickers. And it's like, yeah, the moral of Taken is just always listen to your dad. I actually think that that's true. I think every father, I know I'm going to do this. When my daughter's like 12, 13 years old, we're sitting down and we're watching Taken. I'm just going to stand up in the end and be like, you see what I tell you? What I tell you, okay? You don't listen to your dad, okay? Before you know it, Albanian sex traffickers, okay?
I have a particular set of grappling skills that I will.
There was a Marco from
use
Tripolia everywhere, okay?
Marco from West Hempstead or whatever.
That's exactly how I feel about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think McCall is a sicker bastard, okay? He does kill in a more, and so does Creasy, by the way, in a more creative way. Whereas Liam Neeson's much more of like a cold professional soldier. He's using a handgun. It's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Whereas there's Denzel in those movies. There's some real visceral creativity to those kills.
It's a
And
fantastic
again,
point.
I think part of it is also, again, they were written for Denzel. They knew he would be able to sell this, and figure it out. Whereas like any actor with a decent amount of training could use a handgun convincingly, at least to the average person's eye.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great observation. Liam Neeson in Taken is so efficient. Like he's wasting no time to kill. He's not taking any pleasure in it. It's just he needs to get it done to get to the goal, which is getting his daughter back. Whereas, yeah, Mr. McCall and Creasy, they're a little sick in that way, where it seems like they enjoy it a little bit, or he wouldn't have killed them with so many tools, or in the way in which they killed them.
Mhm.
He took it. He could have just shot his kneecaps and did it much easier and cleaner, where he cutting the fingers off, cauterizing them, doing all these extra things. That's also a testament to Denzel's range as an actor. In the beginning, he seems like he's like so likable, so nice, and such like how could this teddy bear kill anyone, right? And then when he gets into the office with the Russians the first time, when he offers them the $9,800, and he's like, great scene. And he's just being, again, same tender, not intimidating whatsoever. and then they turn him down, and he turns to the door, and he does like an OCD, close it
Opens it, closes
three or
it.
four
Yeah,
times.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
the super OCD. Then he locks it, which is like, now yous can't leave, like one of those
Yes.
types of deals. And then when he turns around, the striking moment for me is how he can change his facial expression to now he's in kill mode. Like, there's the teddy bear mode where he like hands the prostitute in the hospital visiting her friend the napkin, and he's just, you could just, there's almost the way they shoot it, how tender he is and how gentle he is almost. Right? There's a big contrast between his performance there. Then he gets like this, almost like not Forrest Whitaker, but like he gets like this like glazed over look where he's in kill mode, and then they pan to him looking, and he's zoning in on weapons and on weaknesses and on different things. But his facial expression did it for me in Equalizer, how he can just change at the drop of a hat and be that scary and convincing, effective in at what he's trying to pull off, which is,
Yeah.
you got to know this, you have to know this teddy bear can also be that guy and be that killer, because you can't. It's very hard to show yourself in the same character as super tender and then cut to now you're a ferocious savage killer.
Yeah,
It's
dude.
very difficult to do that. Either you're one or the other. You're
Yeah.
not both.
And I agree. And let's be honest, man. Like, if you're okay, like think of Commando, that last scene between the fat Freddie Mercury and John Matrix.
Dude, that's worst villain, by the way.
And he's like, come on, stab me, look in my eyes, see what's going on when you do it, when you twist the knife. Like when Arnold's like antagonizing him. The reason why I bring that up is like, I do think it takes a different type of person to. I think there's got to be a difference between shooting somebody with a rifle versus like killing them with a knife or with your bare hands, or in the case of the Home Depot scene, a nail gun, literally. Okay?
He never used the same tool twice.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
don't they have more drills than one? Like, yeah.
Or a sledgehammer. They don't show it, but there's an allusion to the fact that no one gets beaten by a sledgehammer and generally survives to tell the tale. So that guy, that shoplifter, probably ate a sledgehammer and was seriously screwed up.
That's back on the rack for people to buy.
Yes, exactly. Murder weapon restored to clear, good as new. But the point is, like, I do think on some level you're enjoying it. When you're killing someone with a power drill from behind, you're an artist and you're painting. You know what I mean? You could have easily these guys are dropping silenced rifles. You could have easily just picked it up, came around the corner, and boom, shot it. But instead, you're like,
and make things way easier on yourself.
Yes.
He's at a significant disadvantage not using automatic weapons that he could have just collected from one body that he killed, because they all had the AR-15 silenced, whatever.
With like bandoliers, with like literal bandoliers of ammo. It's not like you're putting one, you're shooting it, the magazine's empty and you're done. Like, these were obvious like mercenaries that were brought in here to kill this guy. But I will say to the audience, and especially to you because you are my dear friend, the Equalizer 2, you would love it. Okay, basically it's similar to like John Wick 2 in that it's like, okay, we're gonna do what we kind of wanted to do the first time because they gave us more money now. That's kind of what it is. And in the second one, he plays a Lyft driver, an Uber driver, and that's actually a huge part of the background of the movie. Is like, early on, like some intern gets like date raped basically by a bunch of like stockbrokers, and they throw her in the back of the car like, hey, pops, take her home. And instead he drives her to the hospital and comes back and kills every single one of like these 25-year-old stockbrokers, with the exception of one who was like relatively innocent compared to the others. Okay. But like it's higher budget. There's a grander scale to it. And I think that the Pedro Pascal plays the main villain in that film. And he's better than the guy who plays the Russian, in my opinion, in Equalizer 1, but similar type of thing in terms of like really, really good quality action. And I got to say this, you don't have to sign off on this. I understand that what I'm about to say is slightly controversial, but I don't think it really is. One of the things I really appreciated about Denzel Washington and Antoine Fuqua working together, in the Equalizer 2, he's living in like a multicultural neighborhood, and he takes this young black kid who's a talented artist, but who's involved with local gangs like under his wing. And there's a scene where the kid is being basically told, hey man, like, take this gun, go kill this guy on the street corner, then you're in the gang. And Denzel sees this, he breaks into the house and he pulls the kid out. And a lot of modern movies, dude, would have gone the route of like blaming the white guy for this. A lot of modern movies would have been like it's Whitey's fault, and there actually is a monologue where Denzel hands him the pistol, and he's like, "Oh, you want to be in a gang? Kill me right now. Come on, put the barrel to my head." And he's like, "What's the problem? White man holding you down?" And he actually like directly antagonizes him for blaming other people for his problems. And that scene had gone another way. If he had said, "I know it's a real problem with white privilege," it would have lost me. Okay, but it was a realistic description of a guy trying to help someone who comes from a similar socioeconomic background, and it made both of them very human. And again, a lot of actors would have wanted to do a script that was much more social justicey. And when it comes to Denzel Washington, one of the things you have to give him credit for, he never did that. And it would have been a slam dunk for him to do it too, because he's a fucking icon. He's an icon.
Absolutely.
He's a legend. He could
Absolutely.
have easily pulled the Morgan Freeman and gone super SJW with stuff, okay? But he didn't do it. He always stayed grounded, okay? He depicted the roles in a way that were always going to be relatable from a very human perspective. And like Ian was saying, there's not a lot of actors that could, in the same movie, have come across like a teddy bear or a guy who's okay with cutting your fingers off and cauterizing them with a cigarette lighter.
Yeah.
There's money to be made in Hollywood for just playing one of those guys.
It's just yeah.
The
first half
know what
is
I
a separate
mean?
movie.
Yeah,
The second half is a different movie.
I mean, there are
Yeah.
guys who get casted because they are the nice guy. And that's their job. They are the nice guy, a John Candy or something, whatever.
Yeah.
That's their role. For Denzel to be able to, in both of these movies, be this like sweetheart of a man, and then frankly someone who he's kind of acting like a serial killer to a certain extent in other parts of it, like in terms of his efficiency and the way he's disposing of the bodies and all this other stuff. It takes serious range to do it, serious range, and that, in my opinion, Ian, is kind of the big difference between him and Liam Neeson. And Liam Neeson's action roles, it's always like he's like just a professional,
Yeah.
and
It's,
there's
it's
that's great.
monotone. It's more monotone to a certain degree.
Exactly.
They give
But it's
glimmers of different,
Yes.
of his making him human. Again, they give certain glimmers just to make sure that he's human,
yes.
and then they go off the rails with the action.
And listen, there's something to be said for that too. I'm not sitting here saying that Liam Neeson is a worse actor than Denzel Washington, or that that's necessarily wrong. It's just a different take on the same character. Like Liam Neeson in these movies is killing because his circumstances have forced him into doing it, okay? And so he's going to do it in a professional way. He doesn't want to enjoy it. He's maybe afraid that he'll enjoy it. You know what I mean? I've known guys that were in the military that thought that way. Like, I'm afraid to even investigate that part of my brain that might enjoy killing people in combat or something. And that makes perfect sense. Whereas it seems like the characters that Denzel plays, I think it's obvious that they do on some level enjoy what they're doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the only reason why we, the viewer, are okay with it is because he's doing it to terrible people. And so
Right.
you're
justifiable.
fine with it. You're fine with it. Yeah.
And I mean, again, you're pumped. You're like, he's getting the bad guys. It's like, you almost don't care how gruesome it is. I mean, maybe if it went so gruesome, you would care. like, kind of disturbed me. Different thing. But law-abiding citizen. Like,
Okay.
You ever see that movie?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm not gonna, because Gerard Butler's in this contest. I don't want to go too far into it, but like he went to town with the torture and the serial killer nature in which he disposed of his, the guys he was getting revenge on. But anyway, yeah. So they have to keep the gore down to a certain minimum to make sure the guy's still like okay. Like cutting fingers off and cauterizing them is one thing, but like skinning someone alive, I guess, or whatever it was, dismembering them on a table is. Maybe a little far for the average average bear.
Exactly. and so I think it seems to me when I look at the careers of these two guys that Denzel Washington, again, Tony Scott was a huge budget action director. Tony Scott, we're going to be talking about him a lot in this series. Tony Scott directed Bad Boys.
Question for
directed Top Gun. Yeah, sure.
Was it Tony Scott for Man on Fire or Ridley Scott?
Tony Scott.
It was Tony Scott.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Tony Scott, unfortunately, he committed suicide not long after Man on Fire. He had terminal cancer and didn't want to live anymore. It wasn't like, and I think he just like jumped off a bridge or something, but he was being tortured by the therapy, couldn't make it, felt like he was a burden on his family, apparently.
Yeah.
So it's very disturbing, obviously.
That sucks.
But Tony Scott directed Bad Boys. I believe Tony Scott also did Days of Thunder. I'm pretty sure. So, like, here's a guy that has done a lot of action films, okay?
Your team matters. The
Yes,
team
and you
really
could
matters.
really see that Man on Fire is shot in a very artistic way with kind of an exposed lens.
Yeah.
It was one of the first Tony Scott films that actually did that. If you look at kind of his filmography, so I agree with Ian. The team matters. And it seemed like they were a little bit more concerned with putting uh, bigger name actors or better actors around Denzel. And it's funny because on one hand, you could say at the time, oh, well, who else is in The Equalizer? But I mean, obviously Pedro Pascal is a top tier actor, and he's in the second one. Who's the guy that plays the president in Independence Day? Uh, Bill Pullman.
Is Bill Pullman?
Bill Pullman, he's in the Equalizer films, obviously as a supporting role, but also the corrupt cop in the Equalizer is the guy that goes on to play Hopper in Stranger Things and is now like a
I know.
major actor,
Yeah.
and he was going to be
Yes.
in the upcoming Rambo prequel. Okay, which is
Yes.
going to be really interesting. So, yeah, at the time, he might not have been an A-list guy, but he puts in a great performance in that film. He's excellent as like as a trashy Boston cop
Yeah.
who like is in way over his head. I
Yeah.
made a deal for some extra money and had no idea what would happen when the check came due. You know what I mean? When the bill came due, like, oh, you've been taking 5 G's a month from the Russian mafia. You haven't done shit for 10 years. Guess what? Now you're going to earn your pay in 4 days. And it's like the worst 4 days of his life. Like there's nothing you could possibly do about it. But I think there were better actors in this, like generally speaking. And I think it's for that reason, again, still a lot to talk about here, but if we're just listing like action hero chops here, I think Liam Neeson was the more influential action hero exclusively because of Taken and what that
One
script
movie.
signified.
It's stacked in
But
one movie.
but if you're asking me who's better, I think I have to say Denzel Washington. And I think it's just the body of work is longer. One of the secondary things that we said we would discuss, and we've touched it a little bit, is like the quality of stunt work. And I know in the later Taken movies, when they tried to have these extended fight sequences, they had to do a lot of jump cuts. I don't think Liam Neeson was athletic enough at that point in his life to pull these things off, where either Denzel was more athletic or Anton Fuqua just figured a better way to film it. I'm not entirely sure, but regardless, it's a little bit more believable. It doesn't take me out of it
Sure.
nearly as much.
Yeah. I think I personally don't like when there's like sequels to action movies and they change the style of combat too much, especially hand-to-hand
Yes.
combat too much.
Yes. Yes.
Classic example for me is Bourne Identity versus The Bourne Ultimatum, which I think is the second one. The Bourne Identity, it was very clear. It was zoomed out just enough that you can see the fight choreography and the fighting happening. Whereas they tried something very different with Bourne Ultimatum. I think it was the second one, whatever that was, where it was very like shaky cam, and it was like almost like
Yeah.
a handheld
No
camcorder that
thanks.
somebody was also involved in the fight. That's kind of how it felt. It just didn't land for me. It didn't land for me. I kind of want to see the choreography. I want to see the moves and the
Yeah.
blocks and the all the things. So when it becomes too grainy, too gritty, sometimes it doesn't hit the way they want it to hit. But I have to agree with you. I'm going to say that my select to move on in this tournament would be Denzel Washington. Like you said, we set out on this endeavor for longevity. Chops was a big part of it. We have to consider, which I want to talk about in a minute, overcoming villains, who overcome the most significant villains in that way.
Good point. That's a
Right.
good
So
point.
that's a big category we can talk about. But all Liam Neeson has is Taken. Granted, it's like the Mount Everest of those types of movies, right? It's the biggest peak you'll find in one of those revenge style thrillers. Super cool. He pulled it. He nailed it. They don't waste any time to get into the action. So if we're talking about gratuitous action, getting right down to the nitty gritty, it's an awesome movie. It's one of the most iconic of that style of thriller ever. And it probably will be long standing for, not beat for a long, long time. But Denzel's put out so many more action flicks. So he's demonstrated his action chops in so many different ways with different characters, different types of characters. Like Liam Neeson's had the opportunity to do that over again and do it in a different way, and he hasn't replicated Taken.
Yes.
Like he can't do it again. So like he did it once that one time. There was magic in the air that day when they created Taken. But Denzel's done Man on Fire. But also if you watch any of Denzel's movies, especially the action ones, even if he's not the hero, they're just great, and because of him. So again, Inside Man, one of my favorites. Man on Fire, Training Day. He's not a hero, but it's a great action movie. Like so, he's involved in the action as well, especially his the shootouts with the shotgun and all those cool scenes there. So I gotta give it to Denzel. I got to give it to Denzel. I think he's earned the right to move on. He's put more work in. He's put more time in. Granted, he's maybe had better teams, but you know,
That's part of it, though.
he's the
That's
main
part of
player.
it.
It's not like he was the Adam Sandler of the group, and he didn't have like his team carried him through in a way. I don't want to say that's too harsh, but like we said last
It's
time,
true.
Adam Sandler might not be the funniest guy out there, but he organizes everything. Like Denzel's the nucleus, so maybe he has the best team, but he still is the guy they want to put out as the front man, the front runner, and he pulls it off. He wraps everything together. Like if you put a bad actor, even with the best director, it might fall flat. It just might not be the same movie. So I'm gonna go with Denzel.
And there's two things here that I think are important to discuss here. I've always felt, unfortunately, and I really like Liam Neeson, but I've always felt like the action part of his career was because kind of Mel Gibson's been doing this recently too. He's been just taking kind of anything and doing the movie. And I still feel like Denzel is still somewhat selective. And
Fair
that's
enough.
like kind of like the Arnold Schwarzenegger to an extent. At least Arnold in his prime was very selective. I think when he got to the 90s, he made some, maybe he still thought he was being selective, but the movies just weren't as good, you know? But like, regardless, Denzel seems to be a little bit more selective, where like Liam Neeson's like, Ice Trucker, I'm in. There's another movie where I forget, it's him and this like young black kid are investigating a murder in New York, and it has action to it. I forget the name of it. It's pretty good, but still ultimately it's like, it doesn't have,
B-list movie.
it doesn't have, he makes it great, but it doesn't have magic to it. But one other thing I want to ask your opinion on, one of the things that I really like about Taken that Denzel doesn't really have, it's one of the few top quality action movies where there is no definitive bad guy, but it still works. So, like, yeah, there's Marco from Tripolia, but Marco from Tripolia is actually a middleman. I mean, he goes all the way to like the French aristocrat guy who's, auctioning off women, right? And you don't even hear about that guy until later in the film. And that guy's not even a tough guy. He gets just murdered. I mean,
It's a
he has
fair
no,
point.
yeah, he's got no chance.
It's a fair point.
I think it's interesting, and it's a testament to Liam Neeson's performance and the pacing and the writing of the movie that he actually has no counterbalance to himself, and the movie still works. Whereas Equalizer, obviously we know there's a villain in each one. Okay,
They
each one
bring in
there's
the hitman
yeah,
to counteract and give make sure there's a big threat that he could not make it. He might
exactly.
die. Yeah.
And even in Man on Fire, it's a little closer to Taken in that regard, but he's still going after the guy they call the voice or whatever, right?
The voice. Yep.
From La
That's right.
Hermandad. Okay,
Yeah.
so there still is
Yeah.
a bad guy, and he's trying to work his way up through this hierarchy to get to the voice's family. Where in Taken, it's really just him versus thugs, but for some reason it works, and that's very unusual for an action movie. You look at like a typical Steven Seagal script, there usually is another guy on the other end of it that he's definitively killing people to get to. Be it
There's a boss battle coming. That's
Tommy
kind of
Lee
part of it.
Jones, right, in Under
Yep.
Siege, or even in
William Forsythe
yes,
in Out for Justice.
yes, or in Hard to Kill, he's going after the
Screwface.
senator. Yeah, no.
No, I'm talking about Mark for Death. Sorry.
Yes,
Yep.
exactly. But we have Screwface as well, right? And so there are guys that he's going to get. I think Taken is really unique in that regard, and sometimes I feel like an action villain it's Taken is proof that you don't need a top tier villain to have a movie, but usually you do. But a bad villain could ruin the movie, though.
That's true.
If,
I thought Commando was the worst villain.
yeah, exactly.
Ever.
Commando is like, you get to the end of it and you're like, really? Like this
guy?
is who he's gonna fight. Especially when you consider like 2 years later he's fighting the fucking Predator. Like what are we even talking about here?
Different class.
So like I think it's a true testament to Liam Neeson, and I think it shows. In my opinion, I do think out of all these movies we discussed within the action movie context, I think Taken is the best action film. Based on all the stuff that was said, it's tighter. It's more purely based on action. There's less drama. Okay, Man on Fire is probably the better movie, but I think Taken,
it is.
It's kind of like Liam Neeson played. It's like you're comparing a guy who had 7 or 8 out of 10 seasons to a guy that had 11 out of 10 season. Who's better? Well, it depends. What are the rules? Do we get him for 1 year? Do we get him for 10 years? Like we don't know.
Longevity counts, man.
On our spectrum, for sure, we're going to say Denzel passes in the tournament. He goes through, and according to what I have on my list here, he's going to run into Sylvester Stallone in the next round. So Denzel's going to have some problems. Okay,
Fairly well.
but
Denzel.
but yeah,
It's like
you
a
did well.
ceremonial victory just to
Yeah,
go to
yeah.
your slaughter, like in that
just to
way.
get just to
No
get just
spoilers, but
yeah.
if we're
Come
being
on, guys.
honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I hear that. So, but
I do
on
think
the other
Taken is the
hand,
best action film.
okay, okay.
Yeah, out
But
of these.
do you have an action hero without a definitive villain? And you said it really well. I like it's a great point. I haven't considered that there was no real villain besides just like the trafficking
Yeah.
business was his villain. Right?
Mhm.
But there was no character that they had to sell you on and make you think was scary and formidable to actually go up against him at some point. That the climax of the movie was the showdown between him and this boss battle, this villain. But sometimes it's hard to be an action hero without a villain, right? A hero needs a villain. So, but yeah, it's a very interesting point and perspective. And if only Liam Neeson could repeat it one more time, if he had one more movie that was on the Taken level in that ballpark,
Be a game changer.
he may have moved on.
Yeah.
But Denzel's just got too much. It's too much. It's quality and quantity. But I
Exactly.
think you're right. There's definitely, from our perspective in this context of this kind of tournament, action style movies, Taken is hard to beat in this matchup.
Because it's got, and I think a real action movie, it's like it's almost only uplifting. Majority,
It
it's very
is.
tight and lean.
Question for you.
Sure, go right ahead.
So, what do you think about the action movies? We're going to cover a lot of them. What do you think about the action movies that never show vulnerability in the hero? Like, for example, in Men on Fire, I think you mentioned that the first time you see action was he cuts that guy's fingers off in the car. The first time there was action was when Dakota Fanning gets kidnapped under his guard, and only against like 3 or 4 guys. Like, so you think like if he's such a freak assassin, even with Christopher Walken's like, hey, Kreese, even at half speed, you're still pretty damn good. Like, because he was an alcoholic, struggling with that, all that. But I just feel like they never ever show Liam Neeson vulnerable, kind of like Steven Seagal. He never ever takes lumps. Right, he just walks through everyone all the way to the end, and then the credits roll. Whereas in some of I think in most of the movies we mentioned for Denzel, even in Equalizer, like he gets cut and he has to like nurse it and pull. He has to cauterize. Really cool scene. He gets shot in the shoulder and he cauterizes, or he blowtorches a doorknob to cauterize that wound so it won't be an issue anymore. Pretty cool. Like that's clever and just well thought out. But yeah, the whole question here is what is your take on movie A, the hero never gets challenged even at all, and movie B, the hero has to like face some adversity through it.
So here's my context. Okay. I am fine with the hero facing no adversity, but it has to meet certain conditions for me. Okay. So
Okay.
I'll tell you what, like,
All right.
let's think about like Predator. Predator is, these group of commandos facing off against like a space alien with superior technology and everything else. But there's no real. The Predator is a villain only because Arnold has to fight somebody, but he's actually just a professional, right? From another planet, kind of doing
Hunter.
his thing. Yeah, he's doing his thing.
But you don't know that at first, I guess, right?
True, but I never at any point in my viewing of Predator feel like the Predator is evil and needs his comeuppance. I just feel like if I was in this commando crew, I would want to kill it because I am terrified and I want to go home. But it's not as much of a revenge film. I think when I put myself in the context of Taken, I, the viewer, want to see a guy just kill 100 different sex traffickers with no issues because what they did to his daughter was so fucked up that I'm fine with it. And I actually almost as the viewer don't want to see him suffer. There's also the context in Men on Fire is like, here's a guy that is heavily flawed and the director and the writer show you this. Whereas in Taken, it's almost like, here's a guy that is trying really hard to make things right with his family, and he's suffering emotionally because of what his ex-wife is doing to him, because of how his daughter treats him. I feel like that's the suffering he's getting, and then the fighting and the killing is him proving his worth to his family in a way. Okay.
This is his value.
So in the context of the script here, I'm fine with it. Now, do I think that it's the only way to do it? Of course not.
No,
of course
just
not.
one style.
There are certain Seagal movies that, like, I'm fine with it. Like, again, Hard to Kill. Like, the guy gets put in a fucking coma. Like, he does get fucked up. He gets blown away by a shotgun. It's just that when he comes back, it's on. And then for the second,
Yeah.
the 2/3 of that movie later
It's
on, it's
all
just
gas, no brakes.
no adversity, just murdering everybody. Um, in
Yeah.
fact, like one of the lines from that movie that I was thinking about while I was watching this, because like Neeson's got so many great like monologues before he kills people. I don't know if you remember this scene in Hard to Kill. We're obviously going to get to it at some point in time. Is when he breaks into the senator's house, and the senator has this like hunting. I don't know if it was a rifle or a shotgun. He's like panic shooting, and Steven Seagal like wraps his head around a pillar, and he's got a handgun, and he goes, "How does it feel to know you're about to die?" And the guy like panic fires 2 more rounds, and then he runs out. And Seagal's like, I'm not going to ruin the ending for people, but
Yeah, yeah.
like it's just so crazy. I think in this movie, not facing adversity, I was almost okay with it. Also, I'll say this: there was what makes Taken unique is that there was an established tight timeline. So like if Liam Neeson gets hospitalized, the plot has told us he's got max 96 hours to get his daughter. So the character can't afford to get wounded and we're already showing that he's 12 hours too late already. He's racing to catch up to this. Okay. And one last thing, dude, about Taken. There's a horror movie component to this. I want you to think about this. Most horror movies, it's the virgin who lives, the final girl, right? The reason why his daughter, is it Kimmy is her name, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Doesn't wind up overdosed on heroin in that bed is because she was a virgin. They wanted to auction her off for top dollar, okay, to some
Untainted.
to some sicko that wanted to pay to have sex with the virgin, whereas the friend who had already been with whoever many people, okay, was considered a much lower quality person and was just suspended or stapled to a mattress to being filled with heroin. And it was like, it kind of reminded me of a horror movie where like the stories always seem to reward the pure person, so to speak.
Innocence.
Yes, yeah, in a way. But I mean, look, dude, these are two film titans, and the reality is, like we said earlier, if we were to go over on this list of action heroes, people that actually have the cinema chops to do what these guys have done, it's almost no one except Mel and Kurt Russell. Most of the guys here, like, they're just not on the same level as actors.
They're
These guys
action
are
heroes primarily. They're not actors primarily. Like these guys are great actors who also can do action. Whereas we're gonna get to people who are just action heroes.
Yes, exactly.
To be honest.
And they're all-time greats. And one of the things that I think I really want to touch on every single time we do one of these is like, even everyone's going to lose. The question is always to bring out what was great about their career and what were their like real contributions to the genre as a whole. I mean, at the end of the day, you could say that Liam Neeson saved the action film, because here's a guy that brought back a serious non-CGI fest that was also lean, 90-ish minutes, not too crazy. He brought action films back to prominence. He returned the gritty Steven Seagal style action film to prominence. He showed that it could be done, and he showed that all great actors could afford to do this and still have a career. Like, you don't really get Gerard Butler's career without Liam Neeson doing this movie.
It's fair.
Okay, there's a lot of things going on here. Okay, he's a huge contribution to this. He also brought back the grounded action hero, the guy that's not too comic-y or crazy, but who's a real person that you relate to. I think Denzel, he wins on longevity, but similarly, he was grounded. He's a bit more performative. He's a bit louder of a character in his films, but that just speaks to his range and how, again, maybe some of these scripts were written for him. But these are both legends. And the reality is, dude, if you sit down to watch Taken or Man on Fire, you're going to have a fucking great afternoon.
Great time.
Okay. Yeah. So it's just Liam Neeson. There's another universe where he gets into making action films 10 or 15 years earlier, like after Schindler's List or something, where he's like, all right, whatever. I just did the most, honored a film in recent history. Let me start doing some crazy stuff. And it would be interesting to see what type of scripts floating around at that time.
If he started younger.
Yeah, he could have done. Because again, we'll touch on this when we get to Stallone and Keanu Reeves. These guys were training with the weapons way earlier in their careers. There was a higher ceiling for them at a younger age to be doing physical stuff. Liam Neeson produced Taken at a point where he was already well past his physical prime and still managed to pull it off based on just sheer aura, acting skills, vibes, and just like his height. Just like you said,
Aura,
he's a very intimidating guy. Yeah,
that's right. And it just his raspy voice. He's the grizzled veteran. Like he pulls that role off really well. Like just the way so honorable mention to that kind of that exact style of acting and communication that he has is, I think, his greatest role ever, which is that skit with Ricky Gervais where he's trying to become a comedian. And dude, he's the guy from Taken in this other role, and he keeps wanting to weave in that he has AIDS into the sketch comedy, and they're like, well, maybe that's just a little too heavy for a comedy, and we don't want to go that far. And he won't take no for an answer. He just keeps bringing it back, dude. That's probably my favorite Liam Neeson ever.
Dude, he's like, well, where did you get the AIDS? From an African prostitute. The family was gone. She was forced to sell her body. It was her only recourse. Or he's like, I've got AIDS. I'm ravaged by it.
But the thing is, dude, he's actually not changing his performance at all, and it still works in a comedy context.
Exactly.
So I guess the supporting cast, the surrounding people, make it work, because Ricky Gervais and his friend like trying to figure out what's happening, but also being intimidated by him. Like he's like, "We're gonna practice right now," and he just sits down. Like, no, we got Liam. We have stuff to do. We can't do it, and he just sits down and starts. Like he doesn't. Yeah, he's not taking no for an answer.
Some improvisational comedy. I'd like to do crazy characters, monologues, and he's just like.
But that's just his style of delivery. So like, I think Denzel has a little more.
As you pointed out, Ian, Liam Neeson, again, I don't know many roles he's actually, well, dude, to be fair, and I haven't seen it, he is the only guy that could have pulled off the Naked Gun remake, and I heard that it was quite good.
Oh, okay? You know what? I have to watch that. I have not seen that either.
And so I need to watch it, but Denzel, to my knowledge, has never pulled off comedy. So there's another wrinkle there for Liam Neeson. Again, not an action hero, okay? Not an action hero role, but here's a guy that has got a huge skill set, and I do agree, and I really genuinely mean what I'm about to say, that Liam Neeson, Ricky Gervais skit, it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. It's not just like, oh, it's cute or clever. Like, it's so funny. It's so perfect. And what's not quite as funny, but worth watching, are the outtakes from it.
Yeah.
The outtakes are really funny because you see like
always the best moments.
Liam Neeson's humanity, like he's actually not this guy all the time, and he's aware of the absurdity of what he's trying to say. And one last thing I want the audience to pay attention to, and I know we're talking a lot, and I apologize, this is the first time doing this. Another thing about Taken that's unique, okay, and this is something that is deliberately avoided in other action movies. I've watched a lot of Liam Neeson films, and there's been very few films where I think it was, trying to think of the best way to put this. There have been very few Liam Neeson films that called more attention to his height than this film. A lot of times in Hollywood, they do their best to kind of like shoot the actors in such a way where it's not obvious that one guy is really tall or really short, especially if they're picking you based on acting chops. They don't want Tom Cruise to look like a dwarf next to somebody else or whatever.
Well, when he played Reacher, the character's 6'5", so they can't make him stand up next to.
Ridiculous,
they have to,
by the way.
Usually it's doctoring shorter people to be taller, though.
Yes, exactly.
Not the other way around.
But what's interesting in this is like they shoot Liam Neeson as a tall guy in this. He looks very big, and Ian brought it up right away. Yeah, like he looks really tall, and then he actually is really tall. But like it works in your unconscious brain. He's the biggest guy in the room in every single scene that he's in. Yeah. Okay, and in a way, I looked it up. Denzel's height is supposedly 6 feet flat, which I wouldn't be surprised if he was shorter because that's what Hollywood does. Like it's almost like if you're shorter, you have to have the quick reflexes as the character or something. Where like Liam Neeson, like we said, he had the aura of just being this serious, tall, scary white dude that's like turbo professional. Like I said, both great actors. I think as an action film, like we said, Taken gets the award for best action film out of both of these guys have done. But when it comes down to, Denzel's got the better catalog, and this is going to be the debate we're going to see a lot. I mean, I don't know exactly how this is going to go, but there's a chance that Stallone's going to face off with Schwarzenegger, and that's going to be the ultimate comparison of peaks versus longevity, right?
Yeah,
that's okay. Yes. Great, you did Predator, okay, but did you do The Expendables 25 years later? No, you were doing. There's gonna be an argument for both, but in this case, I just think Denzel's got too much to offer. Liam, we thank you for participating in this
involuntarily.
Yes, and there were a lot of guys. There's guys that I left off this list that I felt like like Danny Glover could have been on this list
Okay.
to a certain extent.
Okay.
And the fact is, Liam Neeson could have easily beaten a lot of the guys below him in the seeding. Like, he'd be going up against, say, like him. He could take out Harrison Ford. He could take out Wesley Snipes. It's possible. He could take out Vin Diesel. I mean, these are all. It's not a given that he was going to lose in the first round. It's entirely possible that he could have made it to the second round. He just drew. This is the most evenly matched matchup. Okay,
It was. It really was.
I
the
will
whole
say,
contest, maybe.
if we go down this list here, okay, and we don't know, we'll to let you guys know when we're going to do it next. We have to still think about it. But if we go down this list, the next matchup, this is going to make people really angry at us, because I kind of know how it's going to go already, is Jean-Claude Van Damme versus The Rock. When we're talking action movies,
It'll be a fun conversation.
It's a lot closer than you think, people. When we're talking action movies, it's a lot closer than you would think.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So again, I know we talked a lot about these two great actors and their movies. This is an awesome concept. I'm really stoked about it. It makes our conversations even more fun than they normally are because it gives us so much subject matter to cover. And man, I'm really excited to dive into all of this. And then we'll have to figure out an interval or when we drop the next matchup. Might not be every single week, but it'll be a really fun ride. And again, I think we're the only people out there that are doing this.
I agree.
Direct comparisons between action heroes. We should do an action villain, maybe an action villain.
That's actually a great one.
Pretty badass.
So I'll leave the audience with this first of all. Hope you guys have a great week. And again, it looks like our next matchup is going to be Van Damme versus The Rock. So get to watching. Start figuring out those moves. Start watching those movies. I think I don't know if the audience will be surprised or not by our verdict. If you know me personally, you know who I'm going to pick here. But regardless, start watching some Van Damme movies, start watching some Dwayne Johnson movies, and get caught up to speed here, guys. Otherwise, have a great one. We love you all. Take care, and congratulations, Mr. Washington, on your first run.